What's up, folks? Welcome back. We are back to our irregularly scheduled broadcasting. I'm back in the studio after a couple days in New England, and immediately as soon as I start driving home, like the universe ends and a bunch of codexes get released. So that's what we're talking about today. Some Grey Knights. We've got I believe we've got most of the Grey Knights Codex in PNG form now. What appears to be pages missing. I don't know exactly what data sheets are contained within those pages, because they very well could just be art spreads or something. But within the data sheets section, there are data sheets that are not represented. So. And their pages, obviously, the page numbers don't line up. So this is not the full codex. We can't say for sure that it's literally everything, but we'll get a very good look at everything that we've got so far. Now, the first thing that we can do, what we are missing in the leaks are the page with army abilities and stuff. However, we did get confirmation of that from Warhammer Community. So we're going to start over with Warhammer Community and talk about exactly what their ability is. Now, they talk about a bunch of detachment abilities and stuff like that. We do have all that information, so we'll be talking about that momentarily. However, they talk about the newly renamed Gate of Infinity army ability, which is which is Teleport Assault, but renamed, or Teleport Strike, or whatever the army ability out of the Index was called. And it's just an improved version of that.
Ryan G donated $5 through Super Chat. Could we go over the 40k reveals from Sunday at end of Strum? Also, now that you have 2 perfectories, you should sleep 2x better. No fact check needed.
Thanks for the Super Chat, Ryan. Appreciate that. I think we'll find out, I guess, how well I sleep. Right now, Lilac. So we have a new cat, by the way. One of the reasons that I went up to New England and I'm coming back is that I picked up a new cat. It was my mom's cat. She got a dog. The dog and the cat didn't get along. She was like, "This cat is having a terrible time. We need somebody to take it to a better place." So she's gonna come hang out with Inky. So I got back in last night about 9 p.m. and she has ventured out of her little cat carrier, eating some food and stuff. We'll see if she elects to deign us with her presence at some point. She's hiding somewhere. I actually don't know where she went. Between the last night and this morning, she left her little carrier and ended up going somewhere else. I have a picture. Oh, for some reason it came out really blurry. There we go. I have a picture. I can show a picture. This is her before I took her over. She is the most. She's just has no time for your shit, you know. It's very no nonsense. But she's a sweetie pie. She's a little bit more independent than Inky is. Inky's kind of a moron who just wants to be petted and scratched all the time. And Lilac is her name, obviously, and she's a little bit more independent. So we'll see how things end up. Inky is not super thrilled with it, though. She's been hissing at me all morning. I think just like sort of displaying her displeasure. It's been funny though, because she's been hissy and whiny, but she hasn't been like, she's not like physically angry. She's just upset. So like, I've been picking her up and carrying her around and like brushing her and everything. And like while being brushed, she's just hissing, even though she's still like, yeah, okay, I want you to brush me and stuff. But that's what's going on that's cat news, I guess. So hope everyone enjoyed that little thing. What a goober, indeed, insane goober. So anyway, chat. The new army ability over here for old Grey Knights is the same as the old one, but better. So previously, the old teleport assault that Grey Knights used to do was they would up down, and then they would just place outside 9 inches of the opponent's army. And it was kind of like a 9th edition like carryover rule, because 9th edition didn't keyword anything, so deep strike wasn't like wasn't a thing. It was set up 9 inches away from enemies. And a lot of the abilities kind of do the same thing in 10th edition, or at least did. Now it just places them into strategic reserve. Obviously, with all of the new, like the more recently updated rules, the placing into strategic reserve while you have deep strike just lets you deep strike back on the battlefield. So the way that this improves the army is that it allows you to rapid ingress. Previously, there was no timing in which you could rapid ingress, because at the end of your opponent's turn, you had to go into reserve. Then in your reinforcement step, you had to come back. There was no way for you to come back out of reserve in any other time. However, now you can remain in strategic reserves until you need them back in action. So you can either up them and hold, or up them in ingress, or obviously up and then down on the next turn immediately. Now, I think that's going to be helpful, because it seems to me that this army might have a little bit of a delivery problem. It seems like sort of as I was browsing the data sheets, it feels to me like the direction of the codex is that they have a lot of additional abilities that improve their output, but it seems like they are missing a couple of ways to deliver themselves into melee. So doing things like rapid ingress, or using Warpbane Task Force in order to deliver stuff closer is going to be pretty impactful, because these units can now do kind of like actually horrifying damage if they are in like kind of a close position. So that's my read on it anyway, and so having that ability is good. Obviously, this is just a strictly superior version of the old army ability, so I don't know if anybody is upset about that. So with that, we can talk about some detachments. Chat. Hop through now. 90% of the data sheets themselves, at least the ones that I've seen, are mostly the same. Basically, they've all essentially swapped an ability or two. But if you are familiar with generally how Grey Knights worked in Index, that's mostly going to carry over. There's not a lot of enormous, like huge retreads of all of these effects. And I should mention as well, obviously, as I just said, Warpbane Task Force is still totally legal. So you can't play Teleport Strike Force anymore. That's gone, and its abilities have kind of been distributed over the other detachments. However, Warpbane Task Force is still fine. So there are, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 detachments in this. Do I have that right? So there's 5 total detachments for the army. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 6 total. There's 5 in the codex, and then plus Warpaint Task Force. So we can, worst case scenario, the army is going to be at worst a side grade, if not a slight improvement over the old Warpbane Task Force ability. Warpbane Task Force like build, but there are potentially some more options inside the other detachments. Purifiers are stronger. Yeah, Purifiers are situationally stronger, right? Like, it's not like 100% better, but it's better in in any situation where you're not paying to give them rerolls. They are just like strictly better. They do look spooky though. Purifiers and Paladins potentially look like they're kind of like the elite infantry looks pretty spooky. So we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about some detachments, chat. Let's hop in there. First off, Brotherhood Strike. When your units from your army are set up using the Deep Strike ability until the end of the turn, this is also interesting. It doesn't say, and I don't know if this matters, it doesn't say each time a Grey Knights unit from your army is set up on the battlefield. The other ones do have restrictions on them. This one just says a unit from your army. So I don't know if there are any agents with Deep Strike that are relevant, but you could potentially gain benefits on agents units deep striking, because just units from your army set up using the Deep Strike ability until the end of the turn. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack. So it is Deep Strike, not Strategic Reserve. So obviously you need to have the ability on the data sheet. Coming off the table edge doesn't trigger this, but you get reroll, hit roll of 1, and wound roll of 1, which is solid, right? It's not crazy. It's like some of the other detachment abilities where you get reroll, hit rolls of 1, but you have to jump through some hoops, and if you jump through the hoops, you get wound rerolls. Very nice. And obviously, this meshes with the new Gate of Infinity because you are always deep striking every time you use the army ability. Always going to be. Are Grey Knights in agents? Brotherhood Terminators are, which actually I don't think is good, but might be. I don't know. Because the Terminators got a new ability now. And so the Brotherhood Terminators retaining the old version could be okay, but I don't know if you want non-Grey Knight keyworded Terminators because they have no other synergy with the army. Are they called Grey Knight Terminator squads? They are. Yeah, they just have the same rules that the old Brotherhood Terminator datasheet did. So like I guess you could take OG Terminators in this army if you wanted to. I don't know if you're that excited about it, but you could do it. I don't know off the top of my head all the other agents things, but I'm sure there's probably something in there that's interesting. All right. What do we have for our enhancements? Vanishing Wave. You do mortal wounds within 12 inches of you in a pulse when you deep strike. That's kind of cute, but I don't know how often you're going to be triggering this. There are stratagems to close deep strike in this detachment. Oh no, sorry, that's a different detachment. So yeah, we actually just don't have any close deep strikes. So it's just everything within 12, which is it's pretty good. It is 12 of the bearer itself, so it has to be the character model. So it's within 12 of a 40 mil base. So the aura is like pretty big, but it's not enormous. And it's also generally only one mortal wound. So this feels fine, but I don't know if like I would expect a ton of damage out of it. At least not a ton of relevant damage. Blinding Aura, when you set up using Deep Strike, you cannot be overwatched. Very good. Until the end of the turn, so you also can't be overwatched on your charge. Very nice. Purity of Purpose gives you reroll charges when you Deep Strike. Tome of Forbidden Ways gives you additional Gate of Infinities. I think that it's 3, right? Off of assuming that the chart didn't change, off of a Strike Force game. I believe it's 3. So it would give you 4 up downs, which is good if you're playing like a bunch of 5-mans. But I don't know how often you're going to need all of those. The Grey Knights Moloch at home, yeah. For sure. Similar to Deathwatch in Agents. Didn't have a Astartes. 5 with a Calidus. That's true. We could stack it with the old Calidus. Enhancements. True Silver Channeling, 2 CP. You get devastating wounds on your psychic weapons in the fight phase. Infantry only. Good on Purifiers because they have wound reroll. They have access to wound rerolls now, but otherwise it's like they're expensive. So meh. And we also we have lost Drago to the warp. So our access to like anti-X melee attacks is pretty limited, so there's no real like way to trigger this more frequently. 2 CP feels like a lot for this, but because you're already AP2, so most of the time you're just like putting people on their invuln saves. So like the devastating wounds is a nice bump, but I don't know if it's a 2 CP bump in damage output. There are like some characters that are gonna have 1,000,000 attacks, so we'll see if like those end up being relevant, but it's still 2 command points is a lot. Combat mass. Oh, there is a 3-inch deep strike. I'm just an idiot. Just forgot about it. It's 3-inch deep strike. It becomes a 6-inch deep strike thanks to the balanced data slate. It does not let you charge though, which is a little bit awkward because a lot of this stuff is about like charging, right? The reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 is anything. Awkwardly, I think the faction's reliance on like Nemesis Dreadnoughts is not going to go anywhere because these also affect things like Nemesis Dreadnoughts. So, assuming they had Deep Strike, which I think they do. I didn't actually check. I assume that they will. That would be weird if the teleporting robot couldn't teleport. But very few ways to get things into melee. You can get sustained hits 1 if you have set up using Deep Strike in shooting only, not in fight phase. This actually be great if it was fight phase as well, but just shooting. This is like the what's the Tyrannid stratagem, enfilading emergence or whatever. It's like enfilading emergence from Team U. You get sustained 1 on shooting only, not ignore cover. Okay. But I guess I get to wait till my shooting phase to use it, so that's, I guess, in 1 out of 10 cases relevant. A little bit weird. Do Grey Knights have much stuff specifically against demons? I actually didn't notice any. I think it might all have been removed, which in fairness is probably for the best. It's like, I don't know. It was like weird that the matchup was like so like bizarrely skewed. Fortunately, they in 10th edition they didn't have that much stuff. In previous editions they went crazy. 8th edition Grey Knights could the demons, they had everything in the game, like in the army basically did double damage against demons, except that demons could respawn their guys when they died. The matchup was insane. It was actually tended to be demon favored, which is weird because the benefits that they got for playing against Grey Knights were better. I kind of liked that from a thematic standpoint, but it does make balancing super weird because you do hit situations where like your opponent's not playing demons, but they are playing demon keywords, and so they just get fucked. But like you could make it keyword specifically to like Legionis Demonica, but I don't know. It is what it is. I think it's okay that the guys in the miniature game are not necessarily super duper torqued at killing a specific other army in the miniature game. I think it's okay if they're just like a little bit more well rounded, even though in the lore they're supposed to be like the best anti demon guys. Duty Unending lets you strategic reserve a unit when your opponent falls back from it. There's a couple of things like this. It's really good, right? Because like you can engage your opponent with a big unit of Terminators or whatever, or Purifiers or something, and then you touch anything, they fall back, and you just disappear. So if you are an infantry unit engaged, there's actually no way for your opponent to attack you. The delivery is the tough part with this, so you need to like be able to set this up. But obviously, if you can do that and you can play the fight phase well enough that you can string your unit to touch like multiple things to force your opponent to fall back to actually deal with you, then this becomes just like Mists of Deimos with extra steps. In fact, in some cases better because your opponent can't remain stationary or move far enough away to get out of it. As soon as they declare the fallback, you're just out of there. It doesn't matter where they end. Shining Veil gives you stealth in your opponent's shooting phase. It's fine. Expeditious Exit, end of your opponent's fight phase, allows you to place a Psyker infantry unit into strategic reserve. I like that there's these designer's notes here that tells you the intention of the ability. This is a 2 CP up-down, which is a lot, except it lets you pull out of engagement, which is obviously very, very unique. Whether it's worth 2 command points, I don't know, because it's otherwise free if you're not pulling out of engagement, but in any case, that's fine, I guess. So I guess like final thoughts about Brotherhood Strike. It feels very mid to me. It feels like it wants to do. First of all, you could do a lot of stuff where you just play great Dreadknights and you just teleport the Dreadknights every turn. You use a guy in the back to give you 4 Dreadknight repositions, and you can redeploy up to maybe 5 Dreadknights per turn. They all get reroll once they hit and wound. It's fine. But I don't know if it's that much more exciting than Warpbane, which is a little bit more persistent of an effect, and it gives you more like interesting support stuff. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. I wish that there was something besides just an enhancement that gives you charge rerolls to get units into melee, because I think you could play a much more interesting like aggressive list. But it feels kind of like a weirder Warpbane with extra steps almost. Hallowed Conclave is the next one. This one gives you this is a weird one. You can shoot and charge with Terminators in a turn in which you fall back. Terminators only, not vehicles or anything. Which I thought for a second I was like, oh, is this like an interesting vehicle detachment or something? Interceptors maybe? No, Terminators only. Okay. I don't know if Terminators are necessarily the ones we're that excited about falling back and shooting and charging with, but maybe it's fine. Enhancements, Eye of the Augurium gives you Fire Overwatch for 0, and you can duplicate Fire Overwatch. It's whatever. It's a good with like Paladins, I guess, because they can have or purifiers. Anything that gets multiple incinerators is like good Overwatch, but generally speaking, Grey Knight Overwatch is not phenomenally powerful, so I don't know if you're like super excited about that. Inescapable Judgment. Each time an enemy unit within engagement range of the bearer's unit, importantly not the bearer, so it's anyone in your unit. So even if you're 10 inches away, strung out on the edge of the formation, this can still trigger. It does D3 mortal wounds, potentially D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. I hope this is like a relatively cheap like points filler. Obviously, mortal wounds is great. However, it is only explicitly when your opponent falls back. So most of the time, like the only times that it makes it like a ton of sense is that like if you've engaged a bunch of vehicles or something with your infantry unit, but I don't know, it's whatever. Sanctic Reaper, Terminator only, gives you +3 attacks to your melee weapons. So there is the I think it's the Grand Master profile, does have a finest hour, so you can stack that to like 11 attacks. I think 11 strength 9 melee attacks, which is actually kind of sick. So that enhancement's pretty good. When you're talking about a unit that already has, I don't want to say like the greatest melee attacks ever, but Nemesis force weapons are a fine melee profile. And getting just +3 of those is pretty solid. So hopefully this isn't one of those ones where it's like a 25-point offensive enhancement. Because I think you could make a pretty sweet like little fighty dude, which would be cool. Nemesis rounds gives you Overwatch on a 5-up. It's a little bit, I don't know why they're so into Overwatch here. Because like they have a free Overwatch and a 5-up Overwatch, but those two things aren't the same. So we have two Overwatch payoffs, but like or Overwatch like synergies, but like only one of them is a payoff. I guess this one lets you intervene for free, but I don't know. You're an army that deep strikes. I don't know how often you're going to intervene. I guess you could do like funny, like rapid ingress plays and then intervene, and maybe that's fine. But I have no idea how often that's going to come up. I don't think that doesn't like change your capabilities very much. It just gives you a command point back for free sometimes. But I guess maybe the idea is that like you can fire Overwatch with this unit and then duplicate it with this unit, and you get like 2 Overwatches, and one of them's like good. But it's unless again they are basically Paladins. I don't know if you're that excited about Overwatching, and that doesn't even affect your incinerator shots. So I don't know if it matters that much.
Ryan G donated $2 through Super Chat. Terminators got the Mega Nobes unit size treatment.
The Mega Nobes unit size treatment. Like you can take them in little baby units? Is that what that means? Stratagems. Grey Knight Terminators can get +1 attack in melee. Love it. It is Grey Knight's Terminator. I believe that that's different than Brotherhood Terminator. I guess we can take a peek. Yeah, so it's Brotherhood Terminators, which are Grey Knight's Terminators. So this can affect Paladins, which is relevant because Paladins have +1 damage on the charge. So these guys go into 5 attacks, 3 damage each. Is actually kind of horrifying. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty solid, literally just 20% damage increase for 1 CP. Love it. You love to see it. Unending Fidelity. You can also get lethal hits out of your brother captains, I believe, as well. So you can retain the lethal hits that you used to get out of the old the old version off of Brotherhood Terminators when they charged, but you could give it to Paladins by attaching the character, which is pretty great. Unending Fidelity. Usable near your puts, shooting phase or fight phase after a enemy unit has selected targets. An infantry unit that was selected as a target can get a 4+ fight on death. But it lets you shoot, I guess. Just cute. Again, I don't really understand where this like shooting batteries, like this like shooting boat's coming from. Because Grenade, I made this short a little while ago, but like Terminator shooting profiles are not good. They're bad. I guess this lets you like shoot with Purgators or something, but Purgator profiles aren't even that good either. I guess it's like cute that you can shoot on death, but I don't think it's good. Unless again, like sometimes it's flamers and sometimes they can kill like a utility unit. I'm gonna sneeze 1 sec, chat. Sorry about that. But most of the time, I don't think you're going to be using this. 1 CP, 4+ fight on death is okay, though. It's nice to have. Point blank purgation usable in your shooting phase. Storm bolters get pistol and twin linked. We're trying so hard to make these fucking bolters work. Twin linked is a way to do it, but it's just not enough attacks in my opinion. Because you're really only you have at most, if it's a regular Terminator squad, it's likely only 9 storm bolters, right? So like 36 shots, of which you will miss 12. So it's 24 shots. You're wounding on like 6 is twin linked. So like maybe you wound. You hand your opponent like 10 AP zeros for a command point and a 300 point shooting unit, which is just bad. It's just not good. If this affected all your weapons, it'd actually be sick. But twin linked on a Stormbolter is whatever. It's just not enough shots. I wish that they gave them like the World Eaters treatment, where Stormbolters got like insane if they were within half range. Like Rapid Fire 2 is good, right? But it's only 4 AP 0 shots. It's as I said in that short, worse than a regular Intercessor. A Space Marine Intercessor shoots dramatically more like harder than a whole ass Terminator from almost any faction. So like I don't know. Like this little fucking 16 point goober. Shoots harder than a Terminator, and so I don't know if I understand it, Chat. Terminators are bad at shooting. I don't know if I would say Terminators are bad, but they are bad at making ranged attacks, which is awkward. That this basically half of the abilities of this detachment is all about trying to make your ranged attacks work, but it won't. It will not work. It's not good. You need to stack so many special abilities on these things to make it worthwhile. Grind them underfoot. After an enemy ends a charge move, after Terminator ends a charge move, Terminator unit, you get Hammer of Wrath. Thinking exactly, roll 1d6 for each model in your unit within engagement range of the enemy unit. For each 4 plus, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. To a maximum of 6. You're probably getting, I would say this averages 3 to 4 for a command point, which is like okay. Most of the time, you're getting like, I would say 6 or 7 models inside, and then it's a 50-50 for each model, so that's like 3 to 4-ish wounds. Unless the charge is really long. Precognitive strategies. When you're in your opponent's move phase after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move, you just select a granite infantry unit within 9 to get a D6 injury reactive move. It's always nice to have these. Nothing bad you could say about them. Shining Resolve is gives you transhuman. When you're selected in the shooting phase as a target, if their strength is higher than your toughness, you get -1 to be wounded. So like the bodyguard ability essentially. This one feels a little disjointed, Chance. I'm gonna level with you. Our heart's in the right place. +3 attacks for a Terminator character, +1 attack for Terminators, -1 to be wounded for Terminators. It's good. This like focus on Terminators and shooting with them is weird. It's weird and it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. I think if they had focused on like, they're like, hey, this is the Terminator detachment. You can fall back and shoot and charge with your Terminators, but also we have like ways to to deliver them. We have ways to keep them alive. We have ways to reactive move them. I would understand, but the fact that like literally half of the detachment is making your Stormbolters try to do damage by just giving them twin links, like and a better Overwatch. I don't really understand that. This feels like a miss to me. For that reason, there's like a couple little nuggets. Giants of the Battlefield feels like so great. You could get it. We could get like a unit with a brother captain and a bunch of dudes to swing like a million, almost 60 3 damage melee attacks with lethal hits. That feels great, right? But again, it's like we have to deliver them, have them survive, and it doesn't feel like this detachment's really helping that at all. So I don't know. Banishers is the next one. This one's interesting. It does keep some of the old. Oh, we have an anti. It does keep some a little bit of the old Teleport Strike Force stuff going on, but it's also you get Dark Pacts as your detachment ability. A worse version of Dark Pacts in fairness, but that's kind of cute. So Channeled Force is the detachment ability. Oh, it's fight phase only, actually. I'm reading it. So each time your Grey Knights unit is selected to fight, you can take a leadership test. If the test is passed, you get either sustained or lethal hits with your psychic weapons. If the test is failed, there's no downside except that you don't get the ability. So it's not like Dark Pacts where you get the ability anyway, but you trade damage for it. You just don't get your detachment ability if you fail the leadership test, which feels not great, especially if you're playing against an opponent with leadership characteristic, like modifying stuff. And the fact that it's only melee is a little bit awkward. Again, like their shooting's not that great, so like I guess like theoretically it just turns into another Nemesis Dreadnought detachment if they say that you can do it in the shooting phase, because Nemesis Dreadnoughts with sustained or lethal hits on all their guns is actually sick. So I understand why they wouldn't do that, but this does feel like a very limited use case. And failing that leadership test is like a huge deal, because you could like commit 10 Terminators in or something, and you're like, all right, we're gonna Dark Pact, or what we call it, like Bright Pact or something. I don't know, Banishment Pact. And then just fail and like lose 20% of our damage output just right there off one roll. Which isn't great. Additionally weirdly compounded by Sigil of the Hunt. The first enhancement gives you reroll ones to hit and shooting. So our detachment ability affects only melee attacks, but our first enhancement is shooting attacks only. There's like a weird disconnect in this codex where they're not really sure what any of these detachments want to be doing. Reroll hit rolls of 1 to 4. It's important to note the wording here. It's the bearer's unit. It's not while leading a unit, and it's not the bearer. It's the bearer's unit. So you can put this on a Nemesis Grandmaster because it attaches to any Grey Knight thing, and he will get reroll ones to hit for himself. So that's actually kind of sweet. Otherwise, I don't know how often you're using this. Maybe in Purifiers, but I don't think anything can join Purifiers to give them enhancements. So, which I think I've forgotten earlier. Unless they change Brotherhood champions, but I don't know if I have that page, so I'm not sure. Which they fucking should have, because that's a travesty that the champion can't attach to the Purifier squad. But anyway, Ephemeral Tome. Starting your shooting phase if the bear's unit is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, you can use the enhancement. It makes a normal move up to D6 inches. And is not eligible to declare a charge. This is good. There's a bunch of situations where this is like becomes very relevant, right? You can do this in addition to advancing. You can do it after deep striking. You could do it like after you see your opponent's rapid ingresses and stuff. Because it's after your movement phase is completed. Obviously, not being able to declare a charge is a big deal, but being able to reposition your unit after you placed it is pretty good. So I like this. So even if you're just like, I need to score engage at all fronts or some shit, and you're like, I will deploy outside your deployment zone because you screened me, but then just to move in, or move into a table quarter or something, I think that's pretty solid. It is infantry only, so we can't put it on Nemesis Grandmasters, probably for the best. But and I guess like the awkward part is that most of their infantry is like Terminator characters, so they're expensive. But you could do this on like a Brotherhood Librarian or something who's just by himself hopping around and making him like the greatest utility unit ever. You could deep strike, move him, and then cast a spell, then do actions. It's kind of sick. 66th Seal. In your shooting phase, each time a model in the bear's unit makes an attack, improve armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So that is sick on a Nemesis Grandmaster, right? +1 AP in the shooting phase. This feels a little bit like the it's so weird. Detachment ability, melee only, enhancements, shooting only. Okay. That's flabbergasting to me, actually. The more I think about it, the weirder it becomes. That this is not shooting also. But yeah, +1 AP is good. I don't know if I have any other things to say about that. It is good, especially on incinerators. If we can put it on incinerators, it's actually kind of sick because we get to AP to ignore cover, or obviously like sight cannons, heavy sight cannons. It's good on for sure. Pyre Soul, start of your shooting phase. Select one enemy unit within 24 inches. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's incredible. Yeah. It does. I guess it does make sense as Banisher, because I do think we could just stack like a bunch of librarians and do sorts of weird hijinks with them. They're moving. They're doing extra mortal wounds. You could do like 9 mortal wounds potentially to something. This is not. It's not limited to once per game or anything, so it just happens in the shooting phase. That's great. Again, it's so weird that this detachment ability is only fight phase. I don't understand. It feels to me like there's something that you want to do often, and we talked about this when we talked about like Chaos Knights, where something like an important like component of game design is like establishing an intended play pattern. And I don't know what that is for this detachment, because all of the abilities affect different things. So there's no like, it's difficult to assess what the detachment is trying to get you to do. You want basically to have a sequence of play actions that gives you like the best, like gives you, a payoff, and then that then opens up to your opponent to try to disrupt your sequence of game actions, and that creates interesting gameplay. And I don't know what this detachment is trying to get me to do, right? Like, like I guess I'm supposed to rapid ingress, move, and then shoot, and then charge, and then hope for the best. That's just a normal turn, though. I'm just doing normal stuff, so it's weird. I don't understand.
Ryan G donated $2 through Super Chat. Who WNTS to tell Trevi Libby's no longer do mortals?
I don't know. I don't believe that we have the Librarian datasheet, chat. So I have no idea. Unfortunately, my window just closed. It's awkward. Let me look. I don't believe that I do. So I don't know what they do. I assume most of the other data sheets are relatively unchanged, so I would assume that they are similar at the very least. So let's talk about some stratagems. First one, Hex Rot Reprisal. End of any phase. If you a psyker units on the battlefield suffered one or more mortal wounds this phase, select an enemy unit which inflicted one or more mortal wounds to your unit. For each mortal wound, you can reflect it on a 2+. That enemy unit suffers one mortal wound. That's incredibly cute. This also affects devastating wounds, which is cute. However, the unit has to be on the battlefield. So if they did mortal wounds to you and you died, then it doesn't do anything. And also, if it's like mortal wounds from deadly demise, then it doesn't work. Because the unit is dead. However, interestingly, it selects one enemy unit which inflicted one or more mortal wounds, then roll a number of dice, and the enemy unit suffers one mortal wound for each 2+. So if for example, two enemies, whatever they're doing, like with devastating weapons, combi weapon, you guys shoot your unit, right? Two enemy units, and you suffer 8 mortals, you can reflect all 8 onto a single target, even if that unit only did 1 to you, which is kind of cute. So I liked that. Warding Chant. It's gonna get FAQ to let nades and tank shock work. Oh, maybe. Yeah, because it's a unit that deals damage, and that's like a stratagem doing damage. Yeah, I suppose. Well, if y'all have the Librarian datasheet, you guys send it to me. The document that I have does not have that datasheet in it, so I don't know. I don't know what that is. The document I have is missing like 4 pages, I think. You target the unit to use a stratagem, right? But the unit's not dealing damage to you. It's like it's a gray area, right? The stratagem's dealing damage to you. The stratagem has a target of a grenade unit, right? It's not like that the stratagem makes the unit attack you. It's that you target a grenade unit and then the stratagem deals mortal wounds. But it's almost certainly that that's the intended interaction. Which would actually be kind of sick. You have like one little dude running around who's doing who's inflicting mortals, so then who's like throwing grenades, so that the you just get to kill him for CP. I like that actually. Warding Chant. When you're selected as the target of one or more of attacking units' attacks, you get a 5+ feel no pain against attacks with an unmodified damage characteristic of 1. That's fine. It's very a 5+ feel no pain is a good ability. Obviously, it only working against damage 1 attacks means it doesn't blank like your the 3 damage blast weapons that like clear Terminators really hardcore. Like a 5+ feel no pain is basically a 50% damage reduction into you, and it will only work on damage 1 means that interaction doesn't come up. However, it's not bad. There's going to be some situations where your opponent just rips a Gladiator Reaper off on you, and then you're all good. Let's see what we got here, chat. Can somebody send me a data sheet? Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, chat. Somebody sent me a copy with the missing page in it. Good stuff. With 4 missing pages in it. Let's go. Cool. Thanks, chat. We can talk about those in a bit. Once we get to data sheets, we'll hop over there. Talk about that stuff. Chaos Bane. Psyker unit from your army gets anti-chaos 4+. It's actually that is good, right? Especially against like demon profiles, right? So like Rodigus and stuff. When you are shooting a bunch of little attacks and they all wound on 4s, that actually becomes kind of spooky. If you're shooting like 40 Stormbolter shots and suddenly those all wound on 4s, that is a dramatic increase in your damage output. But specifically, if your opponent's saving characteristics are not that good. So because Grey Knights don't tend to have a lot of AP, this is not a detachment that's adding a ton of AP, you do need to sort of have some extra effects in there. Oh, this is fucked. Sorry, chat. I guess I'm having weird computer problems today, and I don't know what's up. It is frozen. Let's open it up again. We'll close it and then open it again. All right, we're back. So this is like one of the ways that we could kind of pay off our shooting stuff, I guess. Like you can get +1 AP, potentially real hit rolls of 1 and anti-chaos, which is like kind of cute. Again, it's chaos only, but chaos is strong right now. So like chaos factions tend to be good. This gives you like an out for like blow drones and light stuff that you could just like wander a bunch of Stormbolters in the middle, like in range of, and then just like nuke them. Which could be cool. Obviously demons like fucking hate this because their saves suck. So just eating like 18 wins from Stormbolters is actually horrifying. You take like a great unclean one, or like, I don't know, Bloodthirster or something, you just hand them 9 damage. Basically half kill them for a command point. That's great. Grey Knight Psyker Infantry can advance and declare a charge. Can't advance and shoot though, so get wrecked. But at least that is a way to get stuff into melee. That's not just not just rapid ingressing, right? So always good. That's a good stratagem. I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. Circle of Sanctuary, 12-inch deep strike denial. Usable. This is a weird one. I noticed this when I read this the first time. It's used at the start of your opponent's movement phase. So if you're holding 1 command point, also it character model. I didn't realize as well. That's bizarre. So it's usable at the start of your opponent's movement phase. So if you're holding a command point and you're like, all right, if I don't need to overwatch or whatever, I will use Circle of Sanctuary to fuck with my opponent's deep strikes. Except that you have to declare it first. So your opponent gets to do their whole movement. You have to spend the command point before your opponent moves anything, even though it doesn't come into play until the reinforcement step. This should be start of your opponent's reinforcement step. But because it started movement phase, you have to pre-spend the CP. It's actually like really trash. It's like it's a fine effect, right? But the fact that it's character model only is really weird. I think that I feel like they're kind of trying to like make you play individual characters, but I don't know if you really want to. Like, it doesn't affect the character's unit; it affects only that model to be a 12-inch deep strike style. Which, if we did have like individual characters that were good by themselves, that would be okay. But we don't have that. Shadow of Anarch is it is just Mists of Deimos. So if you're opponent's movement phase, after they in a normal move, advance or fall back, you choose a grid psychic unit within 9 inches, not within engagement range. You either move 6 inches or go into strategic reserve. So this Mist of Deimos is still alive and well, but it has to be in the Banishers Detachment. Again, I don't know what to think about this detachment. Honestly, like, there's some really good stuff, right? The detachment ability is fine. I think you could just make this happen automatically, right? That's almost literally the Peerless Bladesman detachment ability, right? It's when you charge, choose either sustained or lethal. You could just make it like, I don't know, at the start of the fight phase or something, like, each Grey Knight's unit engagement range can choose either sustained or lethal, and they get that on psychic weapons or something like that, or when you make a charge or something. The leadership test thing is weird because it's only restricted to fight phase. It almost feels like this. Here's my theory, Chant. My theory is that this was originally each time a Grey Knight unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, and what they realized is that everyone immediately took 6 Dreadnoughts. And they were like, it's the Psyker payoff detachment where everything's about a Psyker unit. We have 2 really good enhancements for Grandmasters, and suddenly we had a leadership ability that made them really good. What they should have done is, instead of removing shoot from the selection, is just say Grey Knight Infantry, because all the other stuff is like infantry payoffs as well. And then you don't have this weird thing where you have shooting, like a shooting buff. You have a bunch of additional shooting buffs, but your detachment ability has no payoff for shooting. So I don't know why we're doing that. It's also weird that, like, this is Psyker infantry keyworded, so like we could have kept that, but we didn't do that. But this doesn't let you shoot, even though half the detachment abilities are like, we want you to shoot people. It feels like on the cusp of greatness. It feels like it's so close. There's so many good things in this detachment, but they don't, to me, feel like they come together and construct a cohesive game plan that actually is, like, exciting. Like, you do have Mist of Deimos, I guess, which is like phenomenal, right? Because you can, if you hold up 2 CP, or in this case 1 CP, because you actually have command point cost reduction now in this faction, you could be like, hey, I'm gonna hold up Shadow of Anarch plus a Rapid Ingress for command point, and you can reset yourself right into spooky positions like that. I guess the last one we talked about, the Terminator one, you can also do that. If your opponent falls back, you can is that one, or it's the other one? Duty and ending. You can do the same thing, which is cute, right? That's a really, really powerful effect, especially when you combine it with advance and charge, right? So you can go to your opponent's movement, watch where all their movements are, and then set yourself up out of line of sight, but in a position where you can still advance and charge back in. So there's going to be some potency there. I just wish that some of this stuff was a little bit more cohesive. Still, playing around this effect is like really annoying, so that might be good enough by itself. Just the fact that like the rest of the detachment abilities are pretty good, if not phenomenal, but you have one of the best stratagems in the game, maybe it's fine. I don't know. Is this the worst book written by the entirety of human history? No, it's not. All right, Sanctic Spearhead is the next one. Yeah, this one is immediately like, whoa, okay. Fair enough. Detachment rule. Vehicle units gain auto 6 advances and assault when they advance. Cool. All right. Already in. Let's go. Now, I guess what I didn't look at is if the Nemesis Dreadnought kept its like advance and do whatever the fuck it wants. It did. Okay. Fair enough, chat. Windmill Slam 3 Dreadnoughts, but also vehicles getting auto 6 advances and assault is great in general, right? Because you can get things like Land Raiders, like moving 18 and then shooting flamers and stuff is actually sick. So there's gonna be some good stuff. Quickening, enhancements driven by duty. You get the 6-inch pilot consolidate on walkers, so on Nemesis Dreadnoughts. That's fine. It's not the biggest deal ever, but it is fine. Quickening foci. In your movement phase, each time bearer's unit disembarks from transport, you get reroll charges. There are a couple of disembarkation payoffs, which I actually really like. Unfortunately, it is my opinion that I might be wrong about this, in fairness, but I think that the Grey Knight's Rhino is kind of a disappointment. At least if we compare it to like recent Chaos Rhinos, the Grey Knight's Rhino is kind of awkward. Although it does have a kind of a unique ability. It's really difficult to like access. So I don't know. We'll see. Sigil of Exigence is still around. In your opponent's shooting phase, when you're selected as the target of a ranged attack, you can remove the bearer's unit from the battlefield and then set it back up somewhere else. So that's from the old OG Teleport Strike Force, and it's returned. It's a good one on Grandmasters or on big Terminator squads, so your opponent can't really interact with them. You just love to see it. The last one, Spiritus Machina. In your shooting phase, infantry only, each time the bearer's unit is selected to shoot, if it disembarks from a transport this turn, you get reroll wound rolls. This one feels a little bit better for me. I guess awkwardly, it's a fire support, but you can't put it on like Interceptors, right? Because there's no characters for them. But given the fact that you like, this is probably a payoff on like a Purifier squad that is. Although they already have wound rerolls, so I don't know if it's that exciting. And it's actually probably not Purifiers because they don't have any characters. So it's like Paladins, I guess, that disembark like a Land Raider. Feels like the best place to put this. And they're already like up close and personal, so getting wound rerolls on incinerator shots is actually kind of sick. So that feels fine to me. If we can find like an infantry character with a strong psychic attack or something, it could be good. But a lot of these are held back by it's a little bit of the same situation that Space Wolves are in, where they're held back by the fact that most of their characters are either epic heroes or can't attach to the units they want to. So like you're like, oh, this would be great if I took like 10 Purifiers with a Brother Captain. And they're like, no. Brother Captain's Terminators, so he only goes to Terminators. You're like, oh, okay. Well, like, what if I took it on a Purifier squad? Well, Castlin Crowe is the only character who can join a Purifier squad, and he's an epic hero. Oh, okay. So I can't attach anywhere. Like, I don't have any good options. And you're like, yeah. It's basically just a Paladin squad if it's coming out of a Land Raider. And even then, it's probably only 5 models, so you're getting like 4 Stormbolters and 2 Incinerators out of it, probably. I guess like the idea is maybe like if we put it in like 10 Strike Marines in a Rhino, like maybe that's fine. I don't know, but I have no idea. Why do Dreadfists have a style line? Because it's like I think that anything that's included on the instruction guide, they're contractually obligated to include base stat line for it, basically. Even if it sucks, I do wish that they would take the really bad profiles and give them like a cool ability or something, right? So that there was a reason to ever take them. But like, yeah, unfortunately, there are a bunch of those, right? It's like you could have a heavy bolter or a strictly superior weapon on like half of the Devastator equivalents in the game. And you're like, cool, why do we even print this heavy bolter profile? That kind of stuff. Or it's like where you can take like heavy weapon Cadius who can take a bolter. And you're like, but I would never do that. That's stupid. All right, let's move on. True Silver stratagems. True Silver Will. Psyker vehicle units have a +4 field of pain against mortal wounds for a command point. That's fine. Good into mass devastating. Abominus class targets. This is a great one. This is a windmill slam of a stratagem. One Grey Knights unit that has not been selected to shoot or fight gets +1 to wound against monsters or vehicles this phase. It's okay. Sounds good. Sign me up. I'm in. Especially like, you know, theoretically there are payoffs for disembarking transports. Like we can be delivering paladins with +1 to wound and +1 damage. Like that's actually kind of cool. There's no other requirements for this either. You don't have to have deep struck. You don't have to have disembarked. There's no proximity requirements. For a Grey Knight stratagem, this feels like bizarrely strong. Armored Aegis. Usable in your command phase. A psyker vehicle unit from your army regains 3 lost wounds in your command phase. So you can unbattle shock or get yourself out of the range to battle shock, because this happens in command step on your Nemesis Dreadnoughts. You can use it on those other guys too. What are they called? Dreadnoughts? Venerable Dreadnoughts as well. That's not the greatest stratagem in the world, but it is not bad to have. You're never upset about healing your vehicles. Redoubled Assault. After a Green Knight vehicle unit from your army falls back, you can shoot and declare a charge. Love it. Solid. Another banger in this detachment chat. Force Wave. Green Knight's vehicle unit from your army that has not been selected to move or charge this phase until the end of the phase. Each time your unit makes a normal advance or charge move, it can move horizontally through terrain features. Importantly, not models. So keep that one in mind. But this is another windmill slam of a stratagem. We can Knights of Shade, or Imperious Advance, as it is called now, through buildings with Dreadnoughts, or, importantly, with anything. You can do it with Land Raiders. So we can have a Land Raider Redeemer with a bunch of Paladins in it, move 18 inches, then she'll fire. And then potentially the next turn, obviously not the same turn because we just advanced. Or if we didn't need to advance, we could just disembark, get wound rerolls, and then charge. And get +1 to wound on the charge. And +1 damage. This all feels great so far. No notes. Argent Wrath. After a Green Knight vehicle unit from your army ends a charge move, each enemy unit within 3 inches must take a battle shock check. We couldn't all be bangers, chat. We had to have one stinker in there, and this stratagem is, you'll never use this unless it's like that one situation, the 1% of the time where potentially it could win John Lennon like a world championship or something. Where we'll remember that he has it to score a secondary. But that's not a very good strat, generally speaking. However, that's okay, because we have 4 absolute banger strats that you'll use every game. Or at least 3 that you'll use every game. One of them's okay, and then 2 of them are not that great, but it's fine. This detachment, unlike the other ones, feels phenomenal. I have no notes. This detachment feels like it is a contender with Warpbane Task Force for the one that everyone's going to play all the time. It's even because it kept Sigil of Exigence as well. So one of the best enhancements in the faction has been retained and is in this detachment now. Do Grey Knight Venerable Dreadnoughts get the Psyker keyword? They do. It's funny because previously they used to get the Psyker keyword, but also it did nothing. It had no rules, like context whatsoever. It just made him worse because anti-Psyker effects worked on him. Now it makes sense because you can use psychic payoffs on the Venerable Dreadnought, which is cool. So you love to see it. Yeah, this detachment's phenomenal. I think this is the big one coming out of the codex is feels like Sanctic Spearhead. The other ones feel like they were written, I don't know. It's a little bit of monkey and typewriter phenomenon, I guess. Like we basically threw enough abilities all together into a pot and shook them up enough that we found one. We got one that worked. The other ones feel like they're a little bit all over the place. One more, Augurium Task Force. This is a really weird one. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. Detachment ability from the second battle round onwards. At the start of the movement phase, if you did not select the maximum number of Grey Knight units from your army using Gate of Infinity, at the end of your opponent's previous turn, you can select one Grey Knight's unit from your army that is on the battlefield that you could have selected using Gate of Infinity, remove that from the battlefield and place it into Strategic Reserve. So there's a designer's note to tell you why this works this way. So essentially, I can choose usually 3 units for up-down. for Gate of Infinity. If I choose 2 or fewer, I can then choose 1 start my movement phase and immediately reposition it to at the end of the same phase. So I don't have to do it on the end of my opponent's turn, so I can hold objectives, for example, and then up down and put them somewhere. That's the hold attachment ability. And interestingly as well, it is 1 unit. So I can't, for example, hold all my Gate of Infinities at the end of my opponent's turn, then redeploy 3 things. If I do no Gate of Infinities previously, I get to redeploy 1 thing. It's always 1 thing. So I don't know. There are situations in which this is helpful, right? Because we can do things like see what our secondaries are before we choose which we're going to up down. We can hold objectives. We can obsec objectives before we up down. So there's this is a very useful ability. It does feel a little, I don't know, underwhelming, I guess. It's not flashy. It's got a lot of very technical, little mechanical benefits, but it's not big and cool. It's not combat doctrines or something where the whole army gets to do a crazy thing. It's I get tiny incremental advantages, informational advantages, which I think that people are just gonna, I don't know, be upset about or not interested in. It's not interesting. It's just nice, I guess. Feels like it's missing something. Yeah, maybe. Enhancements. The enhancements are interestingly have this once per game sub theme. They're all very powerful once per battle effects. Grimoire of Conjunctions. Once per battle at the start of the fight phase, you can use the enhancement until the end of the phase. Add 4 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by the bearer. So, if you use it on a Grandmaster who's using his finest hour effect, he gets +3 strength. So he goes to strength 13. He has 8 strength 13 attacks. That's actually kind of sick. So this is probably good if you. It's kind of it feels like a little bit of a Rage Field Warrior kind of thing where you dual activate it with another activated ability and then it goes kind of crazy. Shield of Prophecy. Once per battle at the start of the battle round, bearer can use the enhancement. If you do, it gets +2 toughness to models in the bearer's units. Feels good. Good on Terminators. Good on Nemesis Grandmasters, even potentially. Goes to straight toughness 10, which is a big breakpoint. 1 foot in the future. Each time the bearer's unit is set up in your reinforcement step, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, the unit can make a normal move up to D6 inches, and until the end of the turn is not eligible to declare a charge. I like that it's in your reinforcement set, not necessarily using Deep Strike, but this is just a copy pasta of the other one that we did, right? Because we just did this again, previously. Which detachment had this? It was this one, Ephemeral Tome in Banishers. They just printed the same enhancement again. But honestly, that's fine. I think that's a good ability, right? Especially if you have individual, independent characters, and you can basically use it as a close deep strike to wander them around and score objectives and stuff. So I don't think you're ever upset about that. Doomseer's Amulet might be upset about this one. Each time you're set up in your reinforcement step, it's not each time you're set up. It's in your reinforcement step, so you can't use it off ingress. Bearer can still use this enhancement if he does select 1 enemy unit within 12 invisible. It must take a battle shock test. Okay, who cares? Neat. I guess what you could do theoretically is you could battle shock somebody trying to overwatch you. You battle deep strike in front of a Land Raider Redeemer, and they're I'm gonna overwatch you, and you're no, Doomseer's Amulet. Take a battle shock. Because this is, I think, simultaneous with the setup, whereas the Overwatch would be just after. So I believe that this would take precedence over the Overwatch. So before you could use Overwatch, you have to resolve the Battle Shock. However, if you pass the Battle Shock test, then you're just fine, and this has no effect. So, okay. You could almost just say that this automatically Battle Shocks something in your own reinforcement step, and it would probably be okay. Maybe too strong, I don't know, but it's The fact that it's basically a coin flip for that enhancement to do anything is really weird. You're gonna like bank a game plan off of it, which means like, what are we doing there? It's the Moloch at home, yeah. There's a lot of that. Grey Knights wish they were subterranean assault, you know. Stratagems. Aggressive anticipation, usable in your shooting phase or the fight phase. On a Psyker unit, you get to ignore modifiers to your weapon skill, ballistic skill, characteristic, and hit roll modifiers. That's fine, but not phenomenal. It's just okay. Appointed Hour. Psyker unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight gets 5+ critical hits. Does that fucking matter? It does if you have lethal hits. So actually, that's pretty sick. You get 5 up lethal hits off of units with brother captains. So that's actually cool. All right, I'm in. This feels like a stratagem that should have been in the fucking Banishers Detachment. Why doesn't the 5+ critical hit stratagem work in the detachment whose only detachment ability is that sometimes you get a critical effect? That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm saying, chat. Like these detachments feel like they're like procedurally generated. Forewarned evasion. A walker unit from your army can be -1 to be hit. Okay. Why is it walker only? What is that? I guess they were like, guys, Terminators are too strong with -1, but there's already a detachment that gives them stealth for CP. Maybe because it's like shooting only. It's so weird. That's such a weird restriction. Also, not a strategy in the Walker detachments to give walkers -1 to be hit. All right. Necessary End. This one's super weird. It's a 1 CP fight on death, which is already fine. However, you still have to roll. It's not automatic. You have to roll greater than the current battle round. So it's a 2+. Oh, excuse me. It's a 2+ fight on death in battle round 1. It's a 3+ in battle round 2. It's a 4+ in battle round 3. And it is a 5 or 6, a 5+ in battle round 4. 6 only in battle round 5. So, I guess encourages really aggressive play because it's a fight on death with upside in round 1 or 2, and then just normal fight on death in round 3, and then a fight on death with downside around 4+. But like worst case scenario, you're a 1 CP fight on death, which is like fine, honestly. But it's weird. It's a weird one. Redirected Strike. End of your command phase. Granted, second unit from your army not within engaged range of enemies can be placed into strategic reserves. That's the detachment ability. End of command phase and start of movement phase are like simultaneous. And this is just so it's like 1 CP and you get to do the attachment ability again, but with no restrictions, I guess. Which is like fine. Okay. I don't know. It's so the thing that's like the weird thing about this is that it has a slightly different timing than the detachment ability. Obviously, it doesn't require you to hold your up downs, which is nice. And it can be like simultaneous with scoring, which actually I think fucks it, right? Because scoring always comes last. So like. So it lets you up down your or you'll have level of control over the objective. Just kidding. I don't know what I'm thinking. So it lets you like obsec stuff, and then yeah, you'll hold the objective anyway. If you hold the objective at the end of the start of command, end of your opponent's fight, then if you pick up during that phase, you'll still retain level of control. So it's fine. So you will hold objectives and then up down, which I guess is the difference, right? So the difference between this and the... No, it doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's bizarre to me that this has a different timing than the movement phase thing. Yeah, so you can do more than one, and you don't need to restrict your Gate of Infinities to use this, right? It just always works. So essentially it's just like resolve this effect automatically, end of command, then go to your movement and do it again. The part that I don't understand is why this one is end of command and the other one is start of movement, because those are basically the same. I'm sure that there's a reason for that. I just don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. That's a fine strat. That's fine. I don't know how often you're going to use this, because I don't know how often you need to end of movement or like start of movement phase redeploy things, but I don't know. It does work for the Strike Marine sticky, but so does the Detachment ability, because the Detachment ability works in movement phase. So you've already stickied. So like I like I don't understand. Like, is there anything that matters for you being on the battlefield at the start of the movement phase that doesn't at the end of the command phase? I don't know. Works on turn 1? Yeah, because you don't have to. There's no restrictions on the other thing, right? Anyway, because you don't have to have restricted your Gate of Infinity to use it, right? So there's no riders on this. That's how, except that you're outside engagement range. Mirage of Echoes. Reinforcements up your opponent's movement phase after an enemy unit sets up a Grey Knight's Psyker unit from your army within 12 inches of that enemy and not within engagement range of one or more enemies can be placed into strategic reserve. That's fun. That's fun and cool. I love this. That's super cool. Your opponent's like, "Oh, I'm gonna like set up a charge to get on your home objective," and you're like, "Nah, we out, boys." And then you can immediately just rapid ingress. That's actually sick. That stratagem is so seldom useful, but the situations where it's good are going to be so good. Death Round Terminators. Hey man, I'm gonna infect you, and I'm gonna 6-inch deep strike, and I'm gonna charge you, and you're like, nah. Get the fuck out of here. Oh god, I played demons. This is gonna be horrible. Demonic Incursion absolutely malding out. This stratagem rules. Wait, is this detachment actually sick? So, there's a lot of really mediocre stratagems. -1 to hit for walkers, mediocre. Ignore ballistic skill characteristic modifiers, mediocre. If this was ignore characteristic modifiers, full stop, that'd be great. Redirected strike is just like an addendum to the detachment ability, I guess. The fight on death is fine. So, like, I don't know. The critical 5-ups, I guess, is good, theoretically, if you're, like, on very specific units. But the enhancements seem good. And the effect seems like maybe it's okay. I think this detachment might have an issue with damage output, I guess. But it does have, like, some really interesting things going on. I guess I don't know if I'm that excited about it. Yeah, the Mirage of Echoes only works on reinforcements. Or excuse me. It's enemies that set up in reinforcement stuff. So it's enemies that explicitly come onto the battlefield at the end of their movement phase. So it doesn't work on rapid ingresses. It doesn't work on transports. Like transport disembarks unless the transport's coming out of reserve. Because it's not the same timing as Overwatch, right? It's not every time an enemy unit sets up on the battlefield. It's if they set up in your reinforcement step. So it's explicitly things coming out of reserve. But if they come out of reserve within 12 of you, you get to go into reserve for a command point. So that's why I say, like, 90% of the time this isn't going to do that much, right? Because your opponent's just going to, like, not go within 12. They're going to rapid ingress. They're going to do whatever. But the 10% of the time where you're playing against Mortarian's Hammer and your opponent's entire game plan is like dropping next to you in 6-inch deep striking, and this stratagem just absolutely ruins them. There's like nothing they can do. They then have to totally reorient their game plan to be rapid ingressing, or hitting non-psychers, I guess, specifically if you have rhinos or land raiders or something. Because otherwise you're just like, nah, we out, boys. So that's fascinating. Crit 5 is only applicable to brother captains. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. Like brother captains giving you 5-up critical lethals is like actually kind of sweet. I guess the weird part is that you don't have like command point cost reduction on them, so you can't use the strat for free. So they have to pay full price for it, which is a little bit weird. Yeah, I don't know. Sweet. I think that's all the detachments chats. Should we talk about some data sheets? And I think with that, I will move on to our actual completed document that I have been given. Thank you, chats, for giving me that one. Give me a sec to assemble this whole thing together, and then we'll be good to go. Here we are. Menoth John in chat. What's up, dude? It's been a hot minute, my guy. Nice to see you. Yeah, no dual detachments. If brother captains and grandmasters could dual attach, actually, that'd be goated. This entire codex would look totally different, I think, if you had. It feels. I mean, I talked about it with Space Marine or Space Wolves already, but it feels to me like this codex is gonna suffer the Space Wolf problem, where they have all these cool characters and all of these really interesting synergies, none of which work correctly. Or at least like none of which work particularly efficiently, because they have like such weird attachments that aren't like they don't attach to the stuff that you want to attach them to. Like if you could just attach like Space Wolf characters to anything and vice versa, that codex would actually be sick. But the fact that you can't do that means it's bad, and I feel like this is going to have the same problem where everything is either like for some reason doesn't quite attach where you want it to, or is an epic hero and can't take any of the synergies. And there's a couple situations where you have multiple like enhancement combos that could go together really well in a big brick, but because you can only attach one enhancement to each unit, you're like guess I'll go fuck myself. All right, let's move over to some data sheets. So Voldus is the big mamma jamma of the detachment or of the codex. We've lost Drago, so it's all Voldus all the time. He's largely the same. He gives his unit -1 to be hit from all attacks. A little bit of Tigurius energy there. Each time his unit's selected to fight, he deals mortal wounds to enemies within engagement range. So it's like Hellbrecht. It's fine. He's kind of he does have D3+1 devastating wound psychic shot. So if you get that anti-chaos strat on him, he actually kind of goes crazy. So that's cool. But otherwise he's basically the same. I think, I don't know, he's good at fighting. His hammer goes to 4 damage in a Paladin squad, so that's actually kind of sweet. Nemesis or a regular Grandmaster gets Rites of Battle, Warrior Strategist. It now once per battle round, not once per game. Reduce the command point cost of a stratagem by 1 when targeting his units. You love it. You love to see it. Great. He has his finest hour +3 attacks and strength to melee weapons equipped by the model once per game at the start of the fight phase. So he goes to 8 attacks at strength 9. And then if you add any other bonuses to that, Paladin squad can make him damage 3. We have enhancements for additional attacks, so he could go to 11 attacks, or extra strength, so he could go to strength 13. Those are all really good. So the Grandmaster hits like a truck. Downside is that he does not have any other leadership effects. So he's not giving you anything. He's just reducing command point costs. But that means you're going to rapid ingress for free, most likely, which is cool. Plus, he gets a silencer, which is cool. One thing I wish that this was like the Thousand Suns sorcerer ability, where he could also use it on his gun if you wanted to. I think that would be cool. If he could get +3 attacks and strength in shooting, in case you wanted to build him for shooting payoffs, it would be worse than melee because his melee profile is stronger, obviously. But it would be more interesting, in my opinion. We're not doing that though, so it is what it is. Nemesis Grandmaster, huge buff to Surge of Wrath. Previously, this was once per battle round, one model in your army can use this ability. You get reroll hit, wounded damage. Now it's just when you make a melee attack that targets a monster vehicle. Much, much better. And then he also gains command point cost reduction. So Nemesis Grandmaster, phenomenal. This guy's going to be great. He has the new Nemesis Mace profile. Anti-character 2. Precision. Although it's only strength 6, AP 3, 3 damage, so I think we're just gonna take a Demon Hammer. I don't know, chat. Anti-character 2 precision's like cute. And you're +1 to hit over the hammer. But your expected average damage is lower for each successful hit, and it only is good against characters. It's bad against everything else, so you're almost certainly not taking that. If you are expecting to hit like, I don't know, like literally only. I think if you're expecting to use the precision, this is probably better. But in I think all other cases, the Demon Hammer's better. So you're just gonna take Demon Hammers. So I don't know, chat. I guess you can, and like weirdest, like even more weird, I guess, is that like worst case scenario, you could just swing the Great Hammer. You're less reliable with the hammer hitting a non-vehicle because it doesn't reroll. It gets better as soon as you reroll. But you could just use your Warrior Strategist to reduce the cost of Epic Challenge, and then it's fine anyway. You get free precision, so who cares? Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird profile. If this was a couple points of strength higher, I think it'd be okay. Or if it was 4 damage, if it traded like lower strength, like, but was more like reliable damage than the D6 +1, then like maybe that'd be okay. But that's a weird one. Big Knights are characters, right? But the hammer has more average damage, right? Is wounding on 3s full rerolls instead of 2s, which is like largely the same. It's like very, very marginally slightly less efficient at hitting and wounding. However, your average damage is like dramatically higher. Because instead of doing 3, you're averaging 4.5 with rerolls. So it's closer to 5 or 6. So like even though that you can hit a knight with a 2+ wounding weapon that rerolls, which is cute. Your expected damage out of the Great Hammer, I haven't done the math, obviously, but I'm fairly confident is significantly higher. And then if you hit literally any other monster or vehicle, you do dramatically less damage, like insanely less damage, because 90% of the time you're winning on 5s or 6s, which is way worse. Castellan Crowe still gives +1 attacks to Purifying Flame. He still has the cool 3-shot Purifying Flame that hits on 2s, so he's attacking 4 times when he's attached to a unit. He gets reroll hit rolls on all attacks targeting characters, which is cute, I guess. So you have to keep in mind his Stormbolter compared to everyone else's Stormbolters, because they get reroll hits from stuff. He still has, weirdly, a Demon Weapon, which is just the same as a normal Force Weapon, except it has Devastating. Which I guess is okay, but it always feels to me like he hits a little bit weak for what he does. But that's okay. Standard Brother Captain grants lethal hits to his unit. Phenomenal. Plus, he gains wound rerolls. A little bit of a weird anti-synergy between wound rerolls on himself and lethal hits for his unit, but lethal hits I think is still going to be really good. So I think that is fine. And obviously, like, he'll get this even if he's by himself. So he himself is not that bad of an independent operator. Brotherhood Champion still cannot attach to Purifiers, chat. Who has written this codex? Still can't attach to Purifiers and strip strike squads of their scout when he attaches to them. What the fuck? The most, like, flabbergastingly written character of all time. Here's my question. Obviously, his leadership ability is really good now. It used to be fights first, I think, which is like mid. Why does this character exist? there's no Brotherhood Champion kit, right? We go to Games Workshop and look up Brotherhood Champion. We're not going to find a blister pack for this guy. He's built out of the Strike Squad kit, unless I'm crazy. So I'm not sure. If I looked up Brotherhood Champion, all I get is every other champion in the game. I don't know why we're printing this data sheet. Like, I'm going to level with you. It kind of annoys me that he exists at all. And I understand more data sheet, more better, right? Like, you want the data sheets to do stuff. But it feels to me that because this isn't like a real like miniature, it's not a kit that you can buy. They are super not they're like not incentivized to put any thought into him whatsoever. So you get this like bizarre idiot. He can attach to purgation squads, but doesn't let them advance and shoot, only charge. So you can have a melee, like a mediocre melee character who's basically the same melee profile as the rest of his unit, who makes your ranged squad better at melee.
Ryan G donated $2 through Super Chat. You forget the melter cannon on Nemesis Grandmaster.
What's that? Oh, does he have a new gun? Oh, is it this thing? The Sublimator? 2-shot, strength 9, AP4, D6 damage, twin linked. Well, that's pretty good. Awkwardly, you're oftentimes not going to use the Melta, I guess. But, it's what is it? What does that replace? 2 of the following and can't take duplicates. So you could take heavy Psycannon Sublimator if you wanted to, and you shoot 6 strength 10 AP2 3 damage and 2 strength 9 AP4 D6 damage twin linked. So it's actually like solid anti-tank, right? You just likely won't get the Melta, but if you do get the Melta, he goes crazy. But the twin links just definitely makes that worthwhile. That seems good. Why would you not use Melta? Yeah, I think you always use Melta. The fact that it's twin linked means that you don't necessarily need to be short range for it to be like worth it. Because you could just like fish for wounds otherwise. All right. This is funny because like this guy wasn't in my the document that I had originally. So I have not looked at this data sheet before. This guy's so flabbergastingly obnoxious. So here's the problem. So you can attach him to purgation squads in a ranged only unit. And he gives you advance and charge, not advance and shoot. Okay, cool. So we'll attach him to strike squads, which is primarily melee. Cool. So he strips their scouts. One of the best things that a strike squad does is scout, so that you can obsec front objectives. And if you take a Brotherhood champion, a relatively expensive character because he's a Grey Knight, in a relatively expensive unit because they're all Grey Knights, he makes them worse. And then allows them to advance and charge but not shoot, so they can't use their Stormbolters that you paid for. What a flabbergasting unit. So like, just fucking get rid of this dude. I don't know. The fact that he exists makes me mad. He's not like aggressively bad. I kind of wish I think that maybe there's a universe where if they're cheap and they just advance and charge, right? They're like Clarion of Haste does not require a leadership thing. Like you just take them by themselves and they just wander around. That could be cool, I guess. We'll see what the final points values are. There is a points value page inside the document, but I don't know how much I believe in it. Brotherhood Champion is 70 points. It's a little pricey. But he's also like not that exciting at attacking. He's 5'6", 2'2", no rerolls. Unless you have like an ability, right? Like you give it an effect. So he's not like actually doing that much by himself. He makes the units he attaches to probably worse, and doesn't dramatically improve their like output at all. He just makes strike squads good at charging sometimes. Which I guess is fine, but like the combination of him and a strike squad is if these points are correct, which in fairness they are almost certainly not. It's like 170 points, 180 points or something. 190 points. Fuck me. 190 points, and he makes the strike squad worse. What the fuck? Like, there's a universe, right, where you play them like Chaos Lords and Legionnaires, where you have like little units of 5 and they're just trading pieces. But the difference is that Legionaries are like 80 points. How many points is a Legionary squad? 90. And a Chaos Lord is 90. So it's 180. So I guess it's 10 points difference. But your output is way higher on a Chaos Lord, right? Or a chosen unit is the other thing that fills that role too. So for 10 less points, you get a higher output in a different faction, but for basically the same unit. I got absolutely wild. We're almost certainly paying 20 points in a strike squad to get scouts, right? Almost certainly. But the strike squad is probably worth like 100 or 105 or something by itself. You pay a bunch of points to get a high OC OBSEC scout unit, which is great. Why does this character get rid of it? That's so stupid. This guy changes entirely if you just add the clause where if he attaches to a scout unit, he gains scout. Flabbergasted. Absolutely insane to me. Ugh. Yucky. Brotherhood Librarian. All right, this is the one I haven't seen. He has Vortex of Doom is a gun now. D6 plus 3 strength 8 AP 2 damage. It's actually kind of good. With blast, no devastating, but that's like okay, I guess. His Nemesis force weapon is worse than everyone else's. It's AP 1 instead of AP 2. Thanks to Brother Librarian. And he can only be selected as a target of ranged attacks outside 18 inches. Yeah. I think like this ability is good, but the unit you're attaching to is not fast enough. He's a Lord of Poxes, basically. He has the Lord of Poxes problem, where what you want to do with him is rapid ingress him outside of range for enemies to attack him and then move and charge. Except that they're slow enough that if they deep strike 18 inches away, they cannot charge you unless you have some abilities. So this ability is not that useful. If that was a non-leadership ability and could apply to the individual librarians, this actually be goated, right? You'd have like the best utility unit ever. Like a not very good lone operative, but that has like a good gun and just teleports every turn, that would be sick. But the fact that it requires him to lead a Terminator squad, so you're like minimum 170 points or whatever in, is bad. And then he doesn't improve your offensive output at all. And he restricts you from attaching Brotherhood captains or Nemesis grandmasters or grandmasters. Sorry. Yeah, that's how far the mighty have fallen. Jesus Christ. Okay. Sorry, Librarian. Do you think there's still old Librarian points values too? Oh, 80 points. That's fine. 80 points isn't that high. Because they used to be like 120, right? They're like super expensive, 130 or something. Yeah, this is codex would be good if it feels so random. Like the abilities were like assigned randomly almost, and that does feel like a little bit of a problem with. I think explicitly like Space Marine equivalents in this edition. The factions that are more like fine point, like have a finer point on their design. Emperor's Children, I think, is a good example, where like every single unit is utilized very efficiently because every unit has a role to fill in the codex, and they all like kind of work together to construct a whole. Every Space Marine datasheet is just like siphoned from an amalgam of abilities, and it feels like what they do is they basically just like they like shake a snow globe, and then everyone gets an ability that falls to the ground. Then like They take all the cards of the abilities, they throw them in the air, and whatever data sheet they land on is where they get stuck. And so you just get like endless cavalcades of trash. And it feels like we're sort of experiencing that. And the same for detachments as well. Like the detachments feel like they're just assembled randomly. And there's not really any like cohesive design to them. This codex feels very, I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, but this feels very haphazard. Like it feels like they put a lot of thought and emphasis and stuff into like Sanctic Spearhead, because that feels like it's actually cohesively constructed. Although that's the easiest one to build, because it's basically like, oh, we'll just add every ability that's good in a vehicle detachment. Okay, cool. So going fast and moving through walls is like good in a vehicle detachment. So I guess we'll get those. Sure. That doesn't exactly take a super genius, but all of the other detachments are like basically doing nothing. Ooh. I still think that this codex is probably an upgrade from index variety, because I think your damage output's higher. I guess you lost Drago, which is a big deal. So maybe it's like a side grade from the index, but at least you kept the best detachment, right? You kept Warpaint Task Force, and you gained enhanced, like better Nemesis Grandmasters, and you gained potentially you could take Sanctic Spearhead if you wanted to do fast, like if you want to move fast and break stuff. So like I still think that like if you're a Grey Knights player, you're better off now than you were last week. But I would like, but this is like very very much not very exciting codex release. I don't know. Is it Chat GPT? The Sword Bearer's Detachment rule: a 5+ field open against mortal wounds, and reroll a psychic test. Thanks, Chat GPT. Chat GPT is so fucking worthless for 40k. I love it. It makes me sad. Enhancements. Select a vehicle. While it's within 6 inches of a character, gets +1 to hit. A 4+ invulnerable save, and enemies within 3 inches get -1 to hit with psychic attacks. Once per turn, you can reroll all wound rolls for an attack made by a friendly vehicle within 12. Whoa, that's crazy. ChatGPT has come up with an insane enhancement. One insane enhancement in this otherwise trash ass detachment that it's built. Mind Blade. Melee attacks ignore invulnerable saves. Pretty good, I guess. But you'll just take a 5+ armor save anyway. So like it's sometimes -1 to saves. And then it built us a list, which is almost certainly worthless. Yeah, we can take a Brotherhood Apothecaries apparently. Good stuff. Thanks, ChatGPT. Incredible. Good stuff. We made some great enhancements on an absolutely fucking trash detachment ability. I love it. I love it, chats. Love it when you Google a role, Google AI tells you storms can move through walls. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just had a conversation with somebody recently, and we were talking about a WTC thing, and they were like, I was like, I think we did it wrong, and like this thing that you wrote is wrong because of this WTC rule. And they were like, oh, but Google AI told me I'm right. And I'm like, listen. Google AI has no fucking idea how 40k works. Absolutely no idea. And the issue, obviously, is that there's within the like the zeitgeist of the internet, right? The permanent record of the internet. There's probably 5 editions of Warhammer 40k like recorded, you know? And so it's grabbing trading data from 5 editions of 40k and then like emulsifying it all together, just fucking grinding it up. And so it has no fucking idea what's going on. I think it's a really good example of the failures of AI. Because it, like, as a human, right, we can parse all that information, but an AI that's just taking the raw data has no idea. It would need to have some sort of like date gate on its information or something. And even then, it's still taking information from humans who also probably have it wrong. So yeah, I don't know. It's very funny. It's super funny. Swordbearers was the 9th edition detachment. Yeah. It was good. It had the psychic power that you would cast on an enemy and all your vehicles got a buff to attack them. +1 to wound or whatever. That was sweet. All right. Brotherhood Techmarine. Well, then 3 inches of a Green Knight's vehicle, you get Lone Operative. You can Blessing of the Omnissiah it. Each time an enemy unit ends a charge move within engaged range of a vehicle unit from your army and within 6 inches, you can target the guy with a heroic intervention for 0. You can join into Purifiers. Huh. So we found the attachment for Purifiers, and it's a fucking Techmarine. Is that good? He's 70, according to this. Is it? Man, I'm almost down bad enough for Purifier enhancements that Techmarines might be good, if only because they can attach into Purifiers. He's not even that good at melee. He has a force weapon that's not psychic and 1 extra servo arm attack. He doesn't freak out when you'd kill his vehicles. I mean, he shoots a heavy bolter, I guess, which is good with wound rerolls. Is that good? Yeah, wound rerolls out of a Land Raider or a Rhino or something is like probably okay. If the MFM points come out and this dude is 60, I think I might be into him. You feel like, I don't know, 70 feels so difficult to absorb for like this do nothing moron of character who also you have to pay for an enhancement for. But like, at least we can find a way to give this dude a fucking enhancement. Although here's the dumb thing. You ready, chat? If you attach the Brotherhood Techmarine to a Purifier squad and you give him any buff that affects their ranged attacks, they're still probably going to have lower output than the unit with Crowe, because Crowe increases their number of attacks. If we could dual attach with Crowe, and we could attach like a lieutenant equivalent into the unit, and get Crowe's a buff plus an enhancement, that unit's actually like that unit sings. But because Crowe restricts all other attachments, like all of these enhancements that buff ranged attacks for that unit in specific are basically worthless. Ugh. Maybe not, chat. Well, at least we do have a way to attach Purifiers, I guess. That's the takeaway. So weird. What a weird codex. All right, next up. Brotherhood Chaplain. The Chaplain does not give +1 to wound. Did he? He used to do that, right? Brotherhood Chaplain. Yeah, he used to give +1 to wound. Now he doesn't. Which feels like a huge downgrade. He gets you reroll charge rolls. But I could just attach a Grandmaster and CP reroll my charge roll for free. So this guy feels super duper worthless. Like, actually just throw him in the trash. He feels absolutely, like, literally unplayable. I don't understand why they have done that. that's like confounding to me. He's also worse than the other characters in melee because he's 1 less AP. Cool. Love that. I like that we have a special melee weapon for our chaplains, which makes them worse at fighting. That's cool. Gotta sell Dreadnoughts, yeah. Gotta sell Nemesis Dreadknights. It's the Nemesis Dreadknight faction. Strike Squad. I think they're literally unchanged. They still have OBSEC and your command phase. They have 16 Scout. Their weapons are all the same, I think. Regular side cannons don't ignore cover, which is like kind of weird to me because they're AP ones, so they suck. So yeah, I don't know. Strike Squads are Strike Squads. You'll probably take one just to OBSEC your stuff anyway. Paladin Squad. These guys feel great. Oh no. I have misquoted you, chat. I think I said that Paladin squads could increase the damage characteristic of their attached characters. They can't do that. I have thoughts about that. Interesting. Okay, so they're a Terminator top line profile. They can take an Ancient's banner for free. Oh, if they don't take a heavy weapon. So they could either choose, at least there's a choice there, because previously I think the Ancient just got a heavy weapon and it was like free, right? They can either choose to have, if they take a 10-man, they can have 5 special weapons, or they can have 4 and 1 banner. So I guess it depends on how you want to play, but you could have 5 incinerators in this unit, which is actually kind of horrifying. So that's pretty cool. You can also have an Apothecary Narthesium so that you can return guys to the unit. Previously, that was Brotherhood Terminators only. They've lost that, and they got a significantly worse ability, although they are 2 OC, so that's pretty good. Also, Paladins have grenades randomly. That's cool. But the big thing is that when they make a charge move, they get +1 damage to Paladin squad models, not to the rest of the unit, which I did not realize until I'm now rereading the datasheet. So I apologize for saying that incorrectly earlier. That's really, it's a little obnoxious. I'm gonna level with you. But I think that this unit is still pretty spooky. I think that means that you probably take brother captains. You probably try to take brother captains inside them, so you get lethal hits. The downside, obviously, like their attacks are AP 3 damage on the charge, which is actually horrifying. The downside is that they're relatively low strength if you're going into high toughness stuff. Lethal hits is actually a huge damage modifier on these guys. It's like probably +1-ish to wound. And if you stack that with any other effect, so like the critical 5s, +1 to wound, rerolls to hit, any of that stuff, these guys kind of go insane. So I actually think Paladins are kind of goated in this codex. I do not like, and they did this with Thousand Suns as well, and there's a couple other things they did this with. Space Wolves, Head Takers, Space Wolf Head Takers. It's a new thing in the last brace of codexes where they, like, Games Workshop realized that people were taking units to buff attached characters, and they said, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to take a character to buff the unit. And I understand in some cases that you're worried about balance, but like, I don't think that a character attached to a fucking Paladin squad being high damage and killing someone is too strong, because you're like 500 points in. Like, let that unit kill things. And so the fact that they explicitly went out of their way to remove synergy between an attached character and a Paladin squad actually kind of pisses me off. It makes me that's a very deliberate design choice that I think is in the wrong direction. Rather than incentivizing synergy between your datasheets, you're explicitly removing it. And it's been a trend, and I hope that that's not how things go throughout the remainder of this edition and into 11th, because if so, Warhammer 40k is going to be a really boring fucking game. It's just going to be individual data sheets like rubbing up against each other and then like comparing the stats on the front of their card. Nothing else will matter. And that sucks. So like what if you would take like a little unit and it's like 250 points or 300 points, or 280 or whatever, and it's like a Grandmaster with a Paladin squad, so you can stack all their buffs together and you can get a bunch of 3 damage melee attacks out of a Grandmaster. That's pretty cool, and it's a reason to take more than one Paladin squad. But because that doesn't work, I think you just attach a brother captain and then you just like let them rip, and you don't worry about any other like unit compositions, and that makes me sad. That makes me sad and upset, and I don't like it. Anyway, that's my piece about that. Now having read this ability and how much worse it is. The unit also has the footprint of a Baneblade. Yeah. It is big. It's a big, they are big boy. But like in a lot of game states you can set it up. Or like the nice thing about Terminator profiles is that oftentimes you can eat a shot, especially with the Narthesium, right? So like you can ingress a Paladin squad, and even if one thing in your opponent's army can see them, like they'll shoot them and they'll kill a guy, and then you'll respawn the guy and just keep going. So even if like you can't ingress perfectly because the unit's so physically massive, it doesn't usually give you that big of a downside. That's been my experience watching Grey Knight armies or Grey Knight like sort of armies or Terminator armies play in the past. You'd never take more than 5 models. I don't know if their attack volume is high enough, right? Because if you take like 5 models in a character, it's 20 3 damage attacks and 4 2 damage attacks. Assuming you have no buffs or anything. Like if you're in Warpbane, I guess you're like rerolling once to hit, so you should like convert to close to 100%. And then like your lethals, so you probably get like 5 lethals at AP2, and then the rest are like wounding on 5s or 6s, so like you'll hand your opponent like, no, maybe it's fine. Yeah, maybe you're right. You'll hand your opponent probably like 10 saves at AP2 between 2 and 3 damage. But a lot of armies, like, that's, I guess, worth 10 or 11 is like 7 go through on average. So I guess that's like 21 if they're 3 damage. Yeah, maybe it's fine. If they're not T12. T12, they kind of like fall apart. But yeah, you're probably right, actually. You run into problems with 2+ armor AOC, right? Because they're saving on 3s. And you run into problems with T12. So as long as you don't see a Land Raider, just dodge every Land Raider and you're okay. The fact that Knights are no longer T12 is actually a big deal here. Because I think that the Strength 6 Force Weapon profile is like much more powerful. So maybe you're right. Maybe you do just take 5s. How many points is a 5 in the Codex points? Probably like 220 or something. 225. And you can take 4s if you want to. That's cute. I kind of like this build because all the characters are supposed to come out of these kits. The weird thing that they haven't done is they haven't given you 4 model options for the ground pounder dudes, for the power armor guys, because they're supposed to build champions and stuff out of those units, out of those kits too. It would be interesting if you could have 4 model strike squads. That'd actually be kind of sick. But 5 paladins, like with a lethal hit guy, is like 315, and they're probably good for 20 damage. Plus, like the mini incinerators, the 4 incinerators you can pack into that unit. So, or side cannons. Probably pretty good, chat. So anyway, I think Paladins are great. I would take Paladins, chat. If I was a Grey Knights player, I'd be all in on Paladins. Purifiers as well. Let's talk about Purifiers. I think their top line's the same. I don't think anything's changed except for their ability. This would be a unit that I feel like you should be able to take in 4s. Then you could build a Brotherhood, but you can't attach the Brotherhood champion that you build out of the kit to take 4 of them, so it doesn't matter. But Purifiers got the Legionnaire ability, so reroll once to wound, full rerolls if your target's on an objective. They've lost +1 to hit if they're below starting strength, which is relevant because the 10-mans of Purifiers, and honestly, also the 5-mans, are so like slightly annoying to kill because they have a 2+ armor save that oftentimes you would just take incremental damage. And then you would get to use the Grim Demeanor effect they used to have. But now, rerolls to wound on objectives is huge. So these guys also seem pretty great. The tough part is getting like attachments and stuff. This also affects their ranged attacks too, though. So they can hop in and you can just like full reroll an incinerator brick into something and absolutely fucking kill it. I don't know what the math is on like how much damage a 10-man Crowe Purifier squad does, but it's probably like insane. It would be 4 incinerators plus 7 stormbolters plus 30 or 20 3+ weapon scale purifiers for purifying, and then 4 2+ weapon skill purifying flames. So it's 24 total purifying flames plus 46 incinerators plus 28 stormbolter shots, all with wound rerolls. Against infantry, like T4 targets, that's like absolutely horrible. And the reroll 1s to wound is actually sick for the anti-infantry gun too, because they convert that almost 100% of the time. So new Purifier, especially if you can find a way to source like rerolls, like hit rerolls from Warpaint Task Force is going to be crazy. Because in that case, the +1 to hit was like kind of irrelevant largely. But Warpaint Task Force is about to go insane. Just because like 90% of the time you don't actually need to spend CP to give them wound rerolls. They just get it for free, which is crazy. So I'm loving Purifiers. Purifiers and Paladins feel like the big winner so far. Venerable Dreadnoughts. So he gained Gate of Infinity. Previously, he did not have the Teleport Assault ability, so he was just an idiot wandering around. And he gave your infantry reroll 1s to hit and wound, which didn't matter because they would just teleport away and he couldn't chase them. Now he can reposition. That's great. So we have another ranged attack outlet that can bounce around, and he has an army support ability. In your shooting phase, after he's shot, select an enemy unit hit by one or more of the attacks until the end of the phase. Each time a Grey Knight model from your army, no other keyword requirements. Doesn't matter if it's a vehicle, infantry, psyker, who cares? Each time a Grey Knight model from your army makes an attack against that target, add 1 to hit. I think that there's going to be a lot of armies that take one of these guys just to set up your Nemesis Dreadknights. Because he can fire. He can fire. What does he get? He gets Assault Cannon, Stormbolter, Dreadnought, CCW, and he can replace the Assault Cannon with a Las Cannon. So he gets a Stormbolter and a Las Cannon shot from 24 plus. If one of those hits go through, he's off to the races, and then he's also coming in with 5 3-damage melee attacks in the late game. Plus, he's move 8 base now, so like the Space Wolf Dreadknights. So as he like teleports in, to positions where he's relevant, the next turn he actually can follow up pretty well with melee. So I actually really like these guys. I hope they're not super expensive, but I think that the Venerable Dreadnought is actually sick. 140 in the book points, and that might even be cheaper when the MFM comes out. I think this guy is actually kind of sick. I wouldn't take more than 1, I think, because I think you want 1 for army support. But being able to range buff +1 to hit for all your guns is kind of huge. Especially like we just talked about this dumb Purifier squad, right? That's shooting 1,000,000 times potentially with full wound rerolls. If you just flip the Stormbolter off this guy into the target they're shooting, you get a twin Las Cannon shot somewhere else. And then he gives you a huge damage improvement on all of your Purifiers that turn. Like, that's crazy. I love this guy. And you're always going to be able to get that shot because he's going to teleport around. Actually, I think he's actually sick. The Flamer auto hit does count as a hit, but you have to be within 12 to get that. So it's a little bit tougher. And oftentimes what you want to do is hit your target but not wound them, which means the Stormbolter is actually sweet because he's got 2 Stormbolter shots hitting on 3s, maybe with bonuses, like maybe real ones or something if you're in Warpaint. And then they're only strength 4 AP 0. So the chance of you actually killing someone or doing significant damage with that attack is low, which is good because it doesn't allow your opponent to reposition themselves so that you can rapid fire the rest of your army and stuff. The Stormbolter is actually like weirdly really good on that guy. Plus he looks cool. Indeed. He looks small next to Balistus. Yeah. The old Contemptors or the old box dreads are little tiny babies. I love them though. I love them for that. They're so cute. Brotherhood Terminators. Basically the same as they used to be, except that their ability is different. So all their other stuff's the same. Their base OC2. You can take units of 4, which actually might be sweet. Now, that's kind of fun, I guess. You could get the Apothecary, the Narthessium, so you can return destroyed models back to the unit. The banner gives them +1 OC. So if you just take a banner and a Narthessium, you could get 4 OC3 dudes that respawn if you don't wipe them. And obviously they're a little bit tough to kill, right? Because they're 2+4+ T5. So like one-shotting the unit if they're not getting like super in your face is like kind of sweet. The downside is that you wouldn't have any heavy weapons, but like I don't know if you care that much. I think that this is an interesting ability. So their new ability is +1 AP against non-monsters and vehicles in melee. And I think that the intention with this unit is that they are explicitly designed to fight utility, right? They're super high OC. If you're fighting like intercessors and stuff, like they are actually just going to rinse them in melee. Obviously, you have to deliver them, which is tough. And not having lethal hits in melee against vehicles makes them kind of bad in that matchup. But AP3 into almost any utility unit from like 16 attacks is actually kind of sweet. So I think the idea is that these guys just hop into your opponent's backline and like wander around and take objectives and stuff, which is probably fine, a fine place for them to be. Current book points for them are 170 for 4, which is maybe a little high. What is that, like 42 and a half? I think you could cut them to like 160, 150-ish for 4 guys, and I actually think they would be kind of in a sweet spot. I think that unit would actually, like, I wouldn't take more than 1 or 2, but these little units that have crazy OC and are really sticky to deal with, just wandering around, is actually kind of cool. So I like the idea of this unit. I don't know if I love it at the current points value. 40 points a model feels like a lot, but it could be good. Banner guy can also take a special weapon. Wait, really? No. No, the banner guy can explicitly not take a special weapon. That's the same on the Paladins. The Paladins previously. Oh no, you're right. Actually, just kidding. Yeah, it's that he takes a banner and a special weapon. Wait, is that the same with the Paladin squad? I just misread that. Oh yeah, sorry. I read that the Ancient's banner Stormbolter cannot be replaced to mean that the Ancient cannot take a special weapon, but that's super not right. You're totally right, chat. So wait, so Paladins do just get 5 special weapons. They don't have to choose anymore. I was totally wrong in that when I read it first time. I missed that all of these other options also had the Ancient's banner attached to them. Damn. Okay. Holy shit. 5 Paladins in a character has like 4 incinerators in it. That's wild. That's absolutely insane. And the same with the Brotherhood Terminators. Okay. So 5 Terminators can have 2 special weapons? And plus 1 OC? I love the idea that you can take a Stormbolter. It's like, guys, if you wanted to, you could take a Stormbolter on the sky. You're like, oh, cool. Or you could trade 1 rapid fire, like 1 pip of rapid fire for double strength AP and damage. Okay. I'll probably do that. Or you could trade nothing for 50% more attacks plus 1 strength and sustained hits and precision. Okay. I guess I might do that then. The Stormbolter is just strictly worse than all the other options. Which is wild. There's very few times where you get to take it 2 options and one of them is explicitly strictly worse than a silencer. It's not that like, oh, you could shoot 4 times sometimes versus the Psycan, which only shoots 3. No. The silencer just shoots with a higher strength and more attacks at a longer range. Okay. Like, the fact that we printed a Stormbolter option is hilarious. Interceptor Squad. It looks like it's unchanged. You can after you shoot, you can make a normal move up to 6 inches. Great. You love to see it. Still a good unit. That's not going to change, it seems like. Definitely playable regardless. Purgation Squad. I think they're dead, chat. I think we finally killed them. In your shooting phase, they get up to 4 silencers and side cannons. No changes to those profiles whatsoever, and they pin non-monster vehicle enemies and give them -2 move, -2 to charge. I mean, that ability's fine, but I don't think it's like fine in a way that's worth like 140 point unit shooting at them. And especially because in many cases it literally won't affect anything that's relevant because it doesn't hit their aggressive monsters and vehicles. So I think at least Astral Aim gave them something to do sometimes. This feels like we have finally killed the Purgation Squad. This is a datasheet that has existed since like 2nd edition or whatever, and so they're finally like, we don't know what to do with them. We're just going to throw them out. Yeah, super useless. The move guys get full special weapons? What does that mean? Did they not get these previously? They got special weapons previously. You just often didn't take them because they Yeah, that's not new. That's exactly the same war gear loadout as they used to have. Unless I'm missing something. It used to be 2 per 5? No. I don't know what you're referring to, Chat. Let's look at the index. To the index. I'm fairly certain that this is identical to what it used to be. But I do have the power to just look at the index because I still have it. Interceptors. For every 5 models in the unit, a Stormbolter and Nemesis force weapon can be replaced with Incinerator, Psy Cannon, or Silencer or Psy Cannon. For every 5 models in the unit, a Stormbolter and Nemesis force weapon can be replaced with Incinerator, Psy Cannon, Silencer, or Psy Cannon. I don't know what you're referring to, Chat. This unit, this data sheet is, I believe, identical. I cannot see anything that changed. Anyway, let's move on. That's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Nemesis Dreadnoughts. They can still shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which they advance or fell back. You love to see it. What a unit. Incredible in the new vehicle detachment. Still good in all the other stuff. I think you're still gonna see a trillion Dreadnoughts. They don't have the new Meltagun. I guess that's the Sublimator. I guess that's Grandmaster only, but that's fine. Nemesis Dreadnought still fine. I guess the Nemesis Dreadnoughts, I guess, now are like more dedicated anti-infantry because the Nemesis Grandmasters are much better into vehicles now, like significantly better into vehicles, and so the Nemesis Dreadnoughts you'll probably build with Incinerators, probably or Silencers in Warpaint to get the anti-infantry shooting. Plus, Purifiers got a buff, so Warpaint's gonna be great. I actually think Warpaint's probably the best attachment. Rhino, we talked about Rhinos momentarily previously. They have a really weird ability. They do have firing deck, which is good, I guess. They get 2 Stormbolters and a Hunter Killer Missile, very nice. And then they grant Grey Knights units wholly within 6, a 6+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. Now, awkwardly, first of all, this ability is, I think it's really bad. I think it's the worst Rhino ability that we have. I think it's worse than auto repair or self repair, which is actually kind of sweet. However, I think it protects you against its own explosion. Because I believe, let me double check here. What is a trigger for Deadly Demise? Before removing it from play, units within 6 inches suffer a number of mortal wounds. So it actually, if you're wholly within 6 inches of it and it blows up, you'll actually have a field no pain against its own explosion. I think that's also the case for disembarking from it, right? Because you roll Deadly Demise, then resolve disembarks, then suffer mortal wounds from disembarks, then remove from play. So I think the Rhino also affects stuff that disembarks from it from their own mortal wounds, which is extremely funny. I think that's how that works, actually. Disembarking. Do I have the timing on the mortal wounds from disembarking? But yeah, but it being wholly within is fucking wild because it's a 6+ feel no pain against mortal wounds only. If it was a 6+ feel no pain against all attacks, you would be like, oh, that's interesting. Difficult to trigger, but it's interesting. Mortal wounds only is like, so like 3 wounds per game, and it's only a 6. You could make it a 4 or a 3. Fuck it. We're gonna be, if we could just be a null Rhino from Custodies, make it a 3+ field open against mortal wounds to Grey Knights wholly within 6, and you'd be like, okay, That won't come up very often, but maybe it's okay. A 6 against mortals only to units wholly within 6 is fucking wild. It's so weak. There's so many riders on that. But I like the idea that it protects its own unit against like explosions and stuff, which is kind of funny. But hey, they have 2 Stormbolters. Like every Chaos Rhino and every Impulsor. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not like a Rhino chassis is ever going to be bad. Like to be to be perfectly clear, I think Rhinos are good because of their hull, not good because of their abilities. It's just funny for Grey Knights to have just a dog shit fucking version of the datasheet. That said, you're still probably going to play these things occasionally. And especially in the vehicle detachment where you can move them through walls and give wound rerolls and stuff, I think it's actually going to be sweet. In some situations, you might be playing, Purifiers or Strike Marines or something that does something. Now, Razorbacks got a little bit of a change. They no longer grant fire support; they grant fire focus, which gives you +1 OP, AP, targeting an enemy unit that the Razorback targeted. Some interesting stuff you can do with like Purifiers. Maybe you can push Purifier Incinerators to like AP3 if you attach the guy, or their anti-infantry gun to AP3, or maybe even AP4 if you attach the Techmarine. And that's kind of cute because the Purifiers already have an AP value, or already have wound rerolls, so they didn't need old fire support. But this works pretty well with them. That said, I think it's worse in most cases than wound rerolls from the Stormbolter units. However, there weren't really that many exciting positions for, like, exciting units to embark into Razorbacks besides explicitly Interceptor squads. And so I don't know how much this changes, like, hugely matters. I think it's overall worse, but there's one or two situations where it's actually kind of interesting. Because you can get like wound rerolls out of it with the enhancement in the vehicle detachment, and you could do that on like a champion and put them in Strike Marines, and the Strike Marines get +1 AP and also wound rerolls, so they get both. So like, I don't know, there's something, but it feels kind of whatever, because I don't know if the wound rerolls from a Razorback was that transformative to the whole faction. There's a bunch of airplanes, whatever. Storm Raven gunships could see play in the vehicle detachment for delivery. It could be cool because they're kind of hard to kill, but I don't know. I don't know if we want to spend too much time on the airplanes that much. Land Raider Redeemers, I think, are also in a pretty good spot with this army. I could see, I don't know. I'd kind of like to see Redeemers come down a couple points, because right now they're like, Minotaur and Field Manual is like 285 for them. Yeah, that's what they are in the Codex too. It's probably not going to change, but they do feel a little bit pricey right now. But that said, pretty good profile, and getting any sort of buffs on them is huge. Crusade is still pretty good. The awkward part is that we can only carry up to 16 people, so we can't fit any 10-mans in. But I guess like now we could fit multiple small units, like multiple 4-mans, which is kind of interesting. That's curious. So maybe there's something there, although I don't know if I'm that into playing Land Raider Crusaders. And then Godhammer Land Raider is still vibing too. Yeah. I think I like the idea of a Redeemer in the vehicle detachment, because we can make them fast, and we can like get disembarkation payoffs. But I don't know if it's worth the points, especially when you're considering like that detachment's just going to windmill slam 6 Dreadnoughts every time. So we might just be starting there and trying to fill in other stuff as we can. Oh, the focus works in the fight phase? I missed that, chat. Yeah, it's got the same timing as the Eldar fire support. Oh, I did miss that. Each time a friendly model does disembark transfer, makes it attack the targets that unit. Yeah, improve the armor penetration characters if we want. Okay. Yeah, that's actually kind of sweet. So I wonder if there is like a build where you take like multiple like little Purifier squads that like run in, they get wound rerolls and +1 AP, and they're actually like kind of spooky in melee. Or even like Strike Marines with the champion. It makes me more upset that the champion strips scout, because if you could put 5 strike marines with a champion and then scout a razorback, and then they disembark and advance and charge, like the utility from that little like piece, it's expensive, right? It's like 300 points, but the utility from that little like package is actually kind of sweet. You get a relatively fast unit that can hit pretty hard, and like scout with a vehicle with a dedicated transport, like that's kind of sweet. The fact that he has anti-synergy with that combo is super frustrating. I don't know why they decided to do that. I think because they're goobers. That is cool. I did not realize that, but that's totally valid. Yeah. Opinion of Razorbacks slightly improved. Also Interceptors, I guess, right? Just like move 12 and +1 AP. Yeah. I kind of like it. Razorback is dedicated. Yeah, it's right here. You can see. Dedicated transport. Bloop. Makes Terminators feel even less needed. Yeah, I mean, I think they're different. They're different units entirely. Because I think the idea is that Terminators are better, like, kind of all by themselves. Like Terminators, I would the Razorback won't deliver the AP3 through a wall, but Terminators just like ingressing and then walking up will do it. Whereas the Razorback has to see you. Although if you're in like the vehicle detachment, you can just disembark the unit and then move the Razorback 18 inches to see you, because it can just advance around the corner. So maybe it's actually fine. I bet there's a pretty cool vehicle list here, chat. I bet there's a cool vehicle list, takes a bunch of little tiny units that run around. I bet that's kind of neat. Anyway, that's Grey Knights. We got the whole codex. I didn't think it was the whole codex, but it turns out it was. It turns out between me making this this live stream and then going live with it, it would actually ended up being the whole codex. So, I have mixed feelings. I think that the codex is it feels like a side grade from index Grey Knights. You do have more options for builds, in my opinion. I think that one of these, like probably Banishers, maybe, or like, I don't know, Conclave or something, is like maybe has some play. Sanctic Spearhead seems great, and then Warpbane Task Force is relatively unchanged. Especially if you didn't play the Drago list and you weren't the list where you just like rolled a bunch of 6-inch charges and hope for the best. If you didn't play Drago, I think that Warpbane Task Force actually just dramatically improved because your data sheets got like significantly better. Otherwise, losing Drago is a big loss. However, your data sheets on the whole are better. So it's kind of a side grade. Plus there's like some interesting utility. Like I think the Venerable Dreadnoughts like kind of cool, and Purifier squads being like more independent is kind of sweet. So I don't know. I definitely wouldn't be like, this doesn't feel like a release that's like, whoa, look at all this cool new things we can try. Like here's all these like interesting, innovative things we've done with the Grey Knights Codex. An interesting and innovative faction that has plenty of space for interesting design that we've just decided to like basically just like randomize a bunch of weird detachments that don't really do anything. That feels bad. So I definitely wouldn't be like happy with this codex if I was a full-time Grey Knights player. And I do still have my entire Grey Knights army sitting. I guess this is sad because I do have a fully painted Grey Knights army with all my little Terminators. Look at my tiny apothecary here. But I haven't picked them up in ages. Partially because like they're a little stagnant, and this feels like more stagnancy. I think that the list is gonna be 6 Dreadknights, and I think that's just that's how it's gonna be, and you take it or leave it. And that feels bad. I don't know why they can't get away from that. I think the Dreadknight datasheet was maybe a mistake, because it's too good at everything and it synergizes with anything in the codex too well. But I don't know how they fix that at this point. So a little bit more of the same, but I do think that the more that you have is going to be marginally more effective than what you had previously. That's not exciting though, and I definitely wouldn't. I'm definitely I'm understanding of every Grey Knight player who's like, I don't like this codex. So yeah, that's fair. It's like it was the like lamest release they could have come up with, basically. We can go through Sunday reveals really quickly, but I do have a game in 30 minutes, so I can't spend too. We can talk about the Sunday stuff. From Tacoma. Let's pop it open. Do they have the big like compendium? Yeah, all the reveals in one place. So new kill team with new Death Watch. Looks cool. I saw some people I saw some people who were worried about the new Death Watch box, and because it might be like monopose and like pre-constructed. My hope is that this is like kind of a this ends up being like a kill team Cassius kind of thing, where it's like a pre-built team and you can just take it all as one and they have like a cool ability or something. That would be my hope, but I have no idea if that's the case. Oh, there's a raptor in it. That's cool. There's some new Necrons, a Geomancer, a little baby reanimator, plus an accelerator. So like new plasma site equivalents, I guess. Tomb Crawler, and then Warriors. They're gonna have a. Oh, I guess these are what the operatives are called, right, for kill team. So it's like a different thing. I have no idea what to think about these. It's a little bit weird that they have like it's like dual Gauss Reaper or a Tesla carbine on another unit. We're gonna have another infantry unit that has some sort of dual attack capacity, which is, I don't know, feels exactly the same as what we've already had. But I like this Geomancer guy. Hopefully he's cool. I hope he's not just like slows you down or something boring, but we'll see. Cool to see the kill team terrain in like a non just like Imperial spaceship sort of thing. I like this layout where it is a tomb world. It's kind of cool. I don't know anything about kill team other than that though. New Space Marine boys. It's prescient, or it's I guess lucky that I'm playing on a bunch of salamanders recently, and now we have a new Vulcan Heston datasheet. Because my biggest problem with Vulcan Heston right now is that he's so difficult to synergize with your army because he doesn't have any of the Primaris keywords. But it looks like he's getting Tacticus, which is going to be great. Hopefully, he is not wildly like nerfed in his ability, which definitely they could do. It looks like he still has his. I guess they talked about it. He still has his 4+ field no pain once he's on his chosen objective. But they didn't talk about any of his other stuff, so hopefully he's not changed. If they changed his Melta effects, then it's gonna make me sad. Darnath Lysander gets a big cool model. You'd love to see it. Ethan Shine for Raven Guard. I guess Shan is the chapter master now or something, and I don't know. I think this is a good example of a model that, in my opinion, is like well executed, but I don't know if Ethan Shan. I don't know if I like it. It feels over the top. Raven Guard are weird to me because like they're supposed to be these like the stealthy boys. But then they go in on this like Raven aesthetic where this dude's got like fucking prayer flags all over him and like this big cloak of feathers. But like if you're supposed to be like this like tactical like stealth operative, like why are you wearing all this shit, dude? So I don't know if I love that, but also those feathers are going right into the turbine intakes right there. As soon as you like take off, that cloak's getting ripped right off of your back. So I think this is a good example of a good, like, a very nice technical execution of a miniature of a concept that I think is very stupid. So I don't know. Back to the drawing board with Ethan Chan over here. In my opinion, they're adamantine feathers, indeed. Could have been a sniper. Yeah, but like jump pack characters are always cool. Sniper characters in 40k have a long and storied history of being dog shit. So at least a dude, another jump, like fast melee jump pack guy with some sort of like cool twin linked melee attack has a much better chance of being playable than like man with gun. Man with gun with a 3 damage strength 4 weapon that's going to do literally nothing. Case in point, every Phobos character ever released. Besides the the hyper technical, combi weapon lieutenant, who's not there for shooting, he's there for reactive moves. Iron Hands. Hopefully, we get a re-release of Fieros' datasheet where they make it not dumb. But also, here's Kanik Var. This guy's really cool. I love him. He's so sick. I like his big stick. He hits you with a big stick. That's kind of neat. I like he's got a bunch of little servo butt friends. Usually that means he does a bunch of unit support things. He's hopefully he jumps in heavy intercessors and makes them really good at shooting. That'd be cool. Could also be like a command point generator or something, which would be sweet. He formulates efficient solutions on the fly. That does feel a little bit like he's going to be maybe a command point generator, which would give Iron Hands something unique to do. They used to have what was the Iron Helm from last edition? I think it was called the Iron Helm, right? Where it gave you 4+ command point regen. It was like one of the best command point regen outlets in the game. And then they just removed that in 10th. It would be cool to get something like that back for the faction. Just like make Iron Hands high efficiency again would be sweet. He is an MBA. Indeed. Suboden-Khan. I like that a lot of outside of Vulcan, which I guess is fine because we have Adrax and Vulcan's an old fine cast model anyway. I like that a lot. All of these are new characters, not re-releases, right? So all the compliant non-Ultramarine chapters will at least have 2 characters to play, which, if Salamanders are anything to go by, immediately wildly increases their playability. Because Salamanders were the best non-Ultramarines chapter, if only because they had 2 really good unique characters. And if they just do that for all the other factions, everyone's going to be interesting. Suboden-Khan is a guy, and he's on a bike. And it's a grav bike, and it has an onslaught Gatling cannon on it. Okay, cool. Thanks, G-Dub. They told us literally nothing about him. It sounded like he might do impact mortals, I guess, by the way that sounded. But there was also a new Votann lineup being released. New character, Buri Egnirson, who looks cool. He's wearing a Tyranid head, and he gets to regenerate on a 2+. If you roll a 1, then you cry. But at least he has a unique ability, unlike fucking Uthar. He's just a call. Hopefully he is more than just Uthar, because he does look like he is just a call with a head swap, which I hope is not the case. Oh, and he's got a funny bionic arm, I guess. I love this guy. I love weapons with negative space. I think it's really cool. And as soon as I saw this guy's little his little Tesla gun, his transmatter inverter, I was like, this guy's rad. I love him. He looks like an Overwatch character. They can ensure their latest weapons are fit for mass production. Love it. 3 fire modes on his gun. And at most extreme, it can trigger lethal atomic transformations. Probably like a huge dev, big dev weapon or something. Cool. Hopefully character, but with gun ends up being good. We'll see. That usually tends to be, as we just talked about, a really bad archetype, but maybe it's fine. Memnir Strategist. I like this guy quite a bit too. He assigns to a unit of Steel Jex and uses its Cognitar Mantle to glorious effect. It gets you Fire Overwatch or Heroic Intervention for free. Oh, that's stupid. Okay, or gains yield points. I don't know what those are. I sort of assumed that this guy would be a Nexos, but if he just lets you Overwatch for free, I don't know if he's going to be that playable, which is unfortunate. If he is like a Nexos, it just gives you command points. He's actually going to be sweet, but if he just gives you like select free stratagems, he's probably going to be bad. Ironkin Steeljacks look cool. The funny thing, I laughed when these guys came out because I thought it was funny that the faction of small people went out of their way to make a unit of regular sized people. So we could be playing Votann to play Space Dwarfs of the short Space Dwarf faction, or you could play Votann to play the tall robot Space Dwarfs, which are just normal like humans. I guess they're like Custodes size. They look like Sagittarum. But I think the unit's cool. I think the difference in like physicality of the models is going to be sweet on the table. A unit of Ironkin equipped with heavy-duty bodies and equally heavy weapons. They've been blessed by the Votann with innate martial talents. So they're like elite infantry, I guess. Hopefully, they do not suffer the Gravis like heavy intercessor problem, where they're intercessor size. They're on 32s. That can't be right. They look like they're big boys. These are 40s for sure, right? But hopefully they don't follow the heavy intercessor problem where they're just like they pay for mediocre resilience, which doesn't really matter that much, and then they just like have a slightly enhanced offensive profile over that of a regular unit. But you can give them plasma swords or concussion gauntlets or vulcanite disintegrators, so they can be a melee unit too. Okay, that's probably reasonable. Including a Preymark crest, which gives you critical hits on enemies within a range of objective receive precision. What a fucking trash ability. Never mind, chat. It's all ogre. These guys are going to be horrible. What the fuck is that? Critical precision only if you're on an objective. So I get like the worst weapon keyword 1/6 of the time, and then like if I jump through a hoop. Fucking horrible. That's like the worst unit upgrade I've ever heard of. Oh my god. Fucking Jesus Christ. Throw that in the trash, dude. Chthonian Earthshakers. It's like a mole mortar. It shoots down instead of up. That's cute. I love it. Blast from the past. Heritage dating all the way back to Rogue Trader, yeah. The OG mole mortars. Each is served by a trio of kin. Come with different munitions, breacher or tremor shells, various tools, including a geometric echolocator. Hopefully it's weapon profiles and not like a single or attack profiles and not like a weapon mount you have to choose at the start, like the Imperial Guard artillery. I wonder what these tokens are going to do. I bet they slow you down, and the token is to remind you that there's, which is not my favorite mechanic ever, but that's okay. And then this thing, this kind of blows my mind. I don't entirely understand why we need this because this is just a Sagittor. But with firing deck, I guess. So that's cool. Compact light vehicle used by Hernkin Jaegers. Builds 2 options: a Capricus Defender, a fast-moving weapon platform, and a carrier, a 5-troop transport specifically for Jaegers. So we'll be able to combat squad Jaegers probably, which is hyper relevant, right? It's just funny that instead of doing a different thing, they released a Sagittor 2.0. Which is funny. The carrier is armed with a twigged Magna Coil autocannon at the front and another autocannon on the top. The defender trades crew space for a rail cannon or Hylas rotary. Would a Hylas rotary like the weapon that a Pioneer has? Jesus. Hope that they have a cool ability, because that's just a bike. But if you can combat squad 5 Jaegers into this thing, it's actually going to be cool. Because then usually the Jaegers are like, you only need the first 5 anyway to screen your scout zones. and then the other 5 just die. But if you can pay an extra 80 points or 90 points or something, and you combat squad the unit and get a relevant weapon platform, I think it's actually going to be good. As like a 0 to 1 inclusion. But it's weird that in the faction of entirely combat squadded 5 birth transports, they released another combat squad 5 birth transport. I don't know. It's definitely, it's like a cool model though. If it's a land fort rail cannon, oh, it's super not that. There's no way. I like the idea that it would split between either the heavy weapon on a Hackett's land fortress or a gun, like a bike mounted like crew serve. What would you rather take, like a 120 millimeter like smooth bore Sabo or a Browning 50 cal? It says it is a does it say? A Magna rail cannon. What's the Hearthkin warrior weapon? A Magna rail rifle. And the Hecatan one is called. Is that called a Magna rail cannon? Oh, so the Hecatan is called a heavy Magna rail cannon. So it's probably a lighter version of what the Hecatan Land Fortress has. It's probably like D6 damage or something, like D6 plus 1 or like a las cannon equivalent, I imagine. Instead of D6 plus 6 strength 18. It's probably like 12, 3, D6 plus 1. Honestly, I think you're just going to take the troop carrier version, and I think you're going to throw the other one in the trash. But I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of space back here if you played the Defender version. Well, there's also smoke launchers on it, I think, which is actually relevant. There's smoke launchers on the Defender. So I wonder if the Defender has smoke, but the other one doesn't. That would be relevant. Anyway, chat. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. That's gonna be it for me today. I have a game on Twitch in 10 minutes. I'm actually gonna run a little late, I think. We ran a little over with this one. Please go follow me on Twitch. Don't forget. And I will see you over there. I'm gonna play Salamanders against Astra Militarum. I'm playing in the Away Games League, which is fun. And we'll see what I can do. I don't know. I actually think it's kind of a bad matchup for me. He's got a bunch of Rogaldorns. I can kill Rogaldorns, but the problem is I can't kill them from far away. I'm thinking of reorienting my Salamanders list a little bit. I was playing with some versions, and I think there's one that takes a Repulsor Executioner that might be better than the one I have. But I'm not sure, because the one I have is like, it requires a lot of staging, and I don't know if I like it. So anyway, this feels like it's going to be a tough one, but we'll see how I go. Maybe I will just win anyway. It'll be fine. But anyway, chats, I'll see you in about 10 minutes over on Twitch. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me. Keep it classy, folks. And as always, have happy wargaming. I will be live on Saturday for the Heart of War GT as well. So please come hang out with me for that. I'm traveling back tomorrow. Set up my stuff last night. I get 1 day here, and then I have to pack it back up and leave tomorrow to go back out and stream a GT. So I will see you there, and we'll be back to our regularly scheduled stuff next week. Cheers, everyone. Keep it classy, folks. Have a good one.